right, we're getting close. Come on. Hit that like, share the show, everybody. We're about to get started.
I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now.
Groovy.
I'm rich and I'm dead sexy.
Would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem?
Bring out kiddies! Stop breaking the law, asshole!
Take off, eh?
It's not Irish. It's not English.
How are you? Fair, where's the kindness for the horses, you know?
It's just, well, it's just pikey.
I'm just a happy camper.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
That was just bullshit, Joel.
He's a genius, eh?
Hey, you want to make $14 the hard way?
You think you know something about everything, don't you?
All right. What's happening? Hit the like, share the show. What's up, chat room? Welcome to the show. So, a little joke. People in the chat at one point last week were saying, like, how you look like Jesus. So I came out of the bathroom this morning with Summer like this. And I was like, I don't see it. All right. Anyways, welcome to the show. Hit the like, share it. Annoy the maggot in your life by, and not just the maggot in your life, annoy the faux-gressive in your life. The person who allegedly believes in all the things that we believe in and says they are just, you know, horrified at the villainy in the world and the inequity and the inequality and and they lived to see it ended. And man, oh man, we need fighters everywhere. We gotta get the fighters. We need some fighting going on, and we need to elect people that will fight and also do other things. Whoops, shit. There we go. Oh, sorry. Quitting out of this. That's what we need. We need a bunch of fighters. And then when there's any actual progress to make, you can't find them anywhere. Or when there's a new area that magically doesn't have one of their ingredients, suddenly they don't give a shit about civilian deaths or any of that kind of stuff. It's just funny to me. It's one of the, if I thought about it for a long time, it would, as a Libra, it would enrage the living shit out of me. But I manage my emotions, and I try to keep command of my feelings in these circumstances so that I can deliver to you the best possible commentary and breakdown that you will see anywhere right off the dome, because that's how I work. Don't pre-watch any of my clips like some of those cheaters on the interweb do, where they go and nut pick pieces of other people's stuff so that anyway they know they can dunk on it, and then they avoid the rest of the conversation or the rest of the clip entirely, either because they secretly agree with it, or they don't have an answer to it, or they don't know enough about the issue to deal with the entirety of the issue. I'm just saying. Welcome, those of you that join me in my hatred of, there's a phrase, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's a phrase we often hear: the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now, that phrase has been around for a long time, and it's spoken to sort of the practical nature of dealing with difficult theaters of conflict in the world. And, it's usually assigned to some sort of like militia group or one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, kind of mishmash in certain areas of the world where it clearly defined lines of who the good guys are and who the bad guys are hard to find. So you kind of, you're taking the lesser of 7 or so evils, and you're also picking one that you think could win or whatever in this particular conflict. And you're like, look, we're not going to go in there and do anything about this. So if somebody's it's probably going to be them. So we don't like them that much, but they're better than that guy. So here's a bunch of money and guns, right? We've done that. There is an inversion of this, though, that I find particularly humorous in the world of online slacktivists in the crowd. And that is that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And in that situation, it's where you have like RFK Jr. doing stuff that Democrats have been after for a long time, like food additives. Never mind the vaccine stuff. Food additives and food pyramid stuff and honesty about fats and diet and all that kind of stuff. Stuff that's been around for a long time that most of us as Democrats have been like, yeah, that needs to be fixed. This is clearly corporate interest into the food sector, and they helped develop the food pyramid and yada yada. And so that he comes in, turns it upside down, which is, I would call, a Democratic win on a lot of fronts. But because it happened and it's him, you're like, ugh, son of a bitch. It definitely qualifies under the enemy of my enemy is my friend, except for that friend part. Because goddamn. So I think it should now be the enemy of my enemy is my frenemy. That's what I think the new phrase should be. What did Hal think of the letter? I loved it. We read it this morning, and it was art. Normally, I have a rule against poetry, and if you don't know what letter I'm talking about, it's sort of a text message that President Trump sent to the Prime Minister of Denmark. I mean, technically speaking, whinging like a little bee, as it were. We have a lot of clips to cover today, but I do want to jump into that whole, like, the problem with the enemy of my enemy is my friend is that sometimes it leaves out the fact that you still have an enemy there. Let's get the other enemy number 2, who's an enemy of that enemy being on your side. Let's leave that out entirely. The enemy situation still exists. Yes, I think we can agree, right? And so when Trump starts going after the Iranian regime or something like that, which is very, just kind of standard policy, and you're like, oh, he's doing the right thing, sort of, all of a sudden. And then he bombs the nuclear program, and then that's it. And then he takes the regime's word for it that they're not going to kill protesters when they've killed, 17,000 of them. And they're rounding people up and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, I don't know, they wrote me a letter, said it was fine, so never mind. The problem with him isn't that he's the enemy of your enemy is your friend. The problem in that situation is that he's not trustworthy either. That's the problem you run into in all these circumstances. So that phrase, again, I think the phrase should be rewritten. The enemy of my enemy is my frenemy. And in this particular instance, at best, it may just be another enemy. Like, how about that? How about these just because they're my enemy doesn't mean they're not their enemy too, and I can take advantage of that, I guess is the crassest way of looking at it. And Michael Cohen, I guess, also falls into that zone. While in the past I have appreciated some of his honesty about what he thinks of Trump and that kind of stuff, and it's good when somebody turns around, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the like. I'm glad to see it, but not because, finally someone has validated my criticisms, but because maybe this person has woken up to how they were being fooled by this, and they might have a moment of clarity that changes their life. That could be a possibility as well, but most of the time, it's just because I'm enjoying watching that person dunk on the truly awful person, because I know it scares that person, and they deserve to be scared because of how they treated other people, so I'll stand over here. But I'm never going to be like, come on over for dinner. Like, I got way too many people in line for that to start welcoming in people who just jumped aboard. Now, the whole thing, somebody just put it, Cohen is in the Epstein files. There's no way he couldn't be, because he was Trump's fixer for years. And if you're Trump's fixer during that period of time, you handled some messed up stuff. There's just no way that wasn't part of it. Now, did he handle any of the stuff that involved children, like Katie Johnson? That's a possibility, right? But it's also very much a possibility that he handled stuff in terms of, these older women, and well, I'll just call them women, because they weren't older women. They were just actually women at this point, 19, 20 years old, after they had been groomed by Epstein. And then Trump's like, okay, technically they're legal now, and they're broken in like a fucking show pony. And so then I'll start taking advantage of them, or put them in a fucking apartment and keep their passport so they can't leave. That kind of stuff, allegedly. Which didn't necessarily happen with him as far as we know. But did not happen because look of the year with him and David Copperfield checking the teeth and boobs of these 15-year-old girls and taking them out onto a ferry off of New York Harbor with a bunch of old farts to take advantage of them, and most of them were from overseas, so are either scared to death that they're going to be just pushed over the side, because that's what happens at home, right? So the question is, what did Cohen do now? It's less about what did he do. It's more about what did he know and when did he know it. Now, I'm sure to some degree, and this is what Trump has allowed himself to benefit from, was that Cohen was a lawyer. And as a lawyer, like Dershowitz, he can both use the attorney-client privilege as a barrier to telling the truth and lie about the extent of his knowledge at the same time, because it makes it an unfalsifiable. It makes it unprovable. If that makes sense. It makes it so that he can say, I never helped him with that, because he couldn't legally tell you if he did because of those rules. And so he feels like he can hide behind that part of it. I have no doubt that there's, an element of that in all of these cases, certainly with Dershowitz and certainly with Cohen. And so as much as like embracing him to the bosom the way like Midas Touch did, I just think that's kind of a mistake. Now, maybe it's an easy mistake to make because maybe you thought he was really he turned over a new leaf, right? That he had decided enough of this. This is a Mason shirt. Yes, it is. Maybe he had, decided I'm going to come clean as much as I possibly can and not lose my law license or whatever, that kind of thing, which very well may be the case, right? But I do think it's got to be a little bit more of a stiff arm of trust but verify, and you can be open about it. That's the thing. It's like the Somalian fraud in Minnesota. You can be open about auditing this stuff. It's not offensive to go, hey, you guys are getting a lot of money. We should be able to audit this stuff. It's not a big deal. If you're on the up and up, you got nothing to worry about. We do this with everybody. We want to make sure. There's nothing wrong with that. There's inherently a sort of racism in not doing it. There's a sort of a passive, acceptable form of racism by if somebody accuses you of being racist for checking and you're like, no, I just have to check because that's my job in the thing. There's a racism we go, well, they're not capable of keeping good books, really. They're a little slapdash where they come from. So you can't expect them to live up to the standards that we have. And like, yes, you can. You totally can. If you believe that people are people and you believe we're all equal, it's not hard. But if you secretly are kind of racist, you'll go, well, there's Somalis. They just got here, and all Somalis are the same. That's the other thing you have to believe. And so I don't know if I have I think I know that CSL probably had a clip about the Somali stuff. I know there's something in there because there's been a bunch of stuff. So I'm sorry if I breezed past it and the stuff that I pulled because there's always so much stuff to look at. But the fraud of the Somalians in Minnesota is equal to, or maybe even dwarfed by, depending on what we're going to find out, the fraud that was committed by some Somalis in Cleveland, Ohio, for example. But Ohio has a Republican governor. Trump likes Ohio. So they're not talking about Ohio. As a matter of fact, they would, because of Tim Walz and because of Democrats, they want to dig in on Minneapolis entirely. They want to dig in on Minnesota because Trump lost the state 3 times and he's got a grudge. But he won Ohio. And Republicans have been counting on Ohio for quite some time. And Cleveland's problems probably equal, if not worse, than Minnesota's is, than Minneapolis is. So the issue there, I think more than anything, and again, Lev Parnas, bless his heart, I have the same kind of issue with him, although I'll talk to him in the same way that I would have talked to Michael Cohen. But there are things in it in that you have to understand that I'm like, you were in on the Kool-Aid. Now, there's a difference between Lev Parnas, I think, and Michael Cohen in that Lev Parnas has never claimed attorney-client privilege, and so he's letting everything out. So that would be an area where he is more trustworthy in this circumstance. He doesn't have plausible it wouldn't be plausible deniability, but plausible denial of facts because I'm an attorney. Same thing with it. Dershowitz hides behind all the time. So in the case of Ohio, there's just as much stuff. Now, I have talked about this in terms of the immigrants that came in under Biden post-COVID versus, say, day laborers and people who've been coming into the country, that there is a separate group of immigrants, undocumented immigrants that come into the country. And I'm sure with Trump's gold card, this is what he's trying to, he's basically setting up a similar system to the cartels. He just wants a piece of that sweet cartel coyote money. Basically, it's the Trump, that gold card he's handing out for certain visas. That's the Trump coyote card. Pay me to get you into the country, because people were paying to get into the country. Lots of money, tens of thousands of dollars. And if you have tens of thousands of dollars to pay somebody to sneak you into the United States, you're not the same as somebody who backpacked across the Rio Grande. It's a different set of human beings. And in the case of the Somali immigrant community in Minneapolis and in Cleveland, these are the two biggest areas that they went to, there are, like, I want to say 7 different clans in Somalia. And there's a lot of infighting amongst those clans. And there's there are clans that are in power, And then there are clans that are minorities and that are beaten down and stolen from and tortured and terrified. And it used to be that the tortured and terrified ones were the ones that came to the United States. That was how it was for most groups that got asylum, for example. But then there became post-COVID this kind of non-distinction aspect of like, if you're just leaving, you must be in trouble because the whole world was in trouble, right? And the problem is that the people that came in, mostly the people who were involved in this kind of fraud, could afford to get over here, could afford to get out of Somalia with their families and goods and that kind of stuff. And the very people that probably deserved asylum the most couldn't even afford to get out of the country. Okay? And so the people that are engaged in the fraud in in the Somali community in Minneapolis are not indicative of the population of Somalia that is deserving of asylum. It's different groups of people. And there is they all look alike aspect of racism in this that falls across the political spectrum. On the right, everybody's the same kind of Somali. They're all dirty, they're all fraudulent, and they're all the same color brown, and they're all the same people because they're from Somalia, and that's that. And then on the left side of the thing is that they're all innocent because because the right is tainting them with this uniformity. We must defend in this uniformity. When in many cases, there are a lot of folks that, thank you very much, CSL, they being here. I was scrolling through it, but I couldn't find one that was dealing with a lot of this stuff. Yeah, the troops deployed over Minnesota. I think is that the Somali mobs attack Christians? I don't know that was what really happened. Benny Johnson has just taken this, we could look at the fucking, look at this fucking thumbnail from Bend Over Johnson. Black Hawk down 2. Army ready to deploy to take back Minnesota as Somali mobs attack Christians and cops. Okay, Somali mobs aren't attacking Christians and cops. As a matter of fact, the roundups don't much have to do with Somalis at all. The Somalis are just getting arrested. A lot of them either have a legal right to work here. They're not. Some of them are naturalized citizens. A good portion of them are naturalized citizens. Some of them have families here. They've been here for a while. But this was, most of the ICE stuff that was happening in these areas wasn't about gathering up Somalis per se. So we'll see what he has to say about this. We'll see if we can get into the jumping off point. But there's this idea that, look at the fucking troops. This is just ridiculous. The idea that you would send in a force like that into Minnesota, for God's sake. This is just how nuts this crowd has become.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. This is Christian conservative activist Jake Lang yesterday getting good shreds by a mob, stabbed in the head and the side. He barely escaped with his life. He had to flee the left-wing mob in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was staging an anti-Islam protest, which is, of course, his right under the Constitution. He has
yes, it is. And also, this is not a group of Somalis. I don't know if you've noticed, that's not a traditional Somali hairdo.
Right to protest, and they nearly murdered him. They wanted to drag him from the street. They attacked the car that he was in, and this is simply for standing up against Islam.
Where was he standing up against? I'm not forgiving a mob in this particular system. There seemed to be more cameras there than immigrants. But again, what was he doing in that process where they pulled him down and all that kind of stuff? By the way, the stabbing, totally wrong, bad, evil, uncalled for.
These left-wing terrorists need to be put down with the...
Which sounds like terrorism. Sounds like you're just... So that means anybody in here who's filming this as it goes on, which I presume would also capture as evidence of a physical assault. So how are you going to vet these folks? You're just going to round... I guess, fuck it. Why am I even asking? Round them up. Sure.
The full force of law enforcement, but this is something that must now happen on a federal level because, as you can see here, the police in Minneapolis did absolutely nothing. And I want to give you some good news here about the feds deploying troops, but I want to just play you this clip one more time. Again, Jake Lang.
Well, also, is he blocking the entrance of a mosque or something? Like, I'll have to look into where he is in this place, but he is, obviously trying to either obstruct or climb into some place. Maybe he's trying to escape. Who knows?
Bleeding from the back of the head, bleeding from the side, had body armor on, and that's the only thing that saved him from being ripped to shreds.
Well, no, I mean, I think the fact that the crowd didn't rip him to shreds saved him from being ripped to shreds. Like, I have no doubt that there's some folks in there that would meant to do this dude harm, but now do Jan 6 is my point.
There are liberals that wander through every American city and burn American flags and burn Bibles. This never happens to them. Conservative.
Huh? Well, first of all, I guess nor should it. But again, was he burning a Quran? Is that how this all started? Like, again,
never be.
Well, you know what? I don't need any context at all. Just play the video of as it's starting. None of the stuff leading up to it. What could possibly change the beginning of this? And therefore, I mean, there's all these other cameras around. And this is the one that you're putting up specifically, I guess because it makes the mob look gigantic. But it also looks like everybody there is filming their own version of the Blair Witch.
Behave like this. Never. This is why the Insurrection Act.
Hold on. Never? Never. Never is the... never. Real quick. Excuse me, please. How are you? Hold on there for 1 second. Just talk amongst yourselves while I grab some. Hold on. Let's see.
Riot here. We're going to give riot warning. We're going to try to get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
GI.
5 to 50 be advised, Cal Police 1 advised they're trying to breach and get into the Capitol.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like what happened.
Breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
That's in case the audio is a little rough, that's hang Mike Pence, they're yelling. Just while by the way filming themselves saying hang Mike Pence, so everybody's like, why was this the biggest investigation in the history of America and more evidence presented than ever? It's because these dickheads filmed themselves. Yeah, who would, just these left-wingers, man, they can just do whatever they want, and they can attack police officers and get... Oh, sorry, did I say left-wingers?
We need to hold the doors of the Capitol!
There's a guy dragging a cop by his face mask. There's a guy... If that guy didn't have body armor on, that crowd would have torn him to shreds.
I need police support!
Gee, that guy seems nice. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave this right to me. And I proudly stand up and defend a pedo as he loses an election day. All right. It's just a guy trying to take a cop's weapon. There you go. Wonder what the Jan 6 reaction would be if this policeman had responded to this guy the way Renee Good was responded to. What do you think Jan 6 would have looked like if the guns had started firing? Because I got news for you. A bunch of those Jan 6ers were packing, including the guy who fired his gun from standing on the scaffolding into the air to show everybody we're armed.
All LPDs pull back up to the upper deck. All LPDs pull back to the upper deck.
Sorry, you know what I should do is hold on. Let me pause this, go back to here, and
was created. And yet, what if a left-winger ever was attacked by a Republican, how fast do you think law enforcement would be on there? The Minneapolis police let this American nearly receive a mob death, a lynching in Minneapolis. So, of course, all control has been lost in Minneapolis.
By the way, this is January 6th footage, and Benny Johnson talking about the Minnesota footage.
Minneapolis. Yeah. It's completely evil what happened. Pray for the people who are on the scene.
Yes, pray. Pray for them. Pentagon readies 1,500 troops to possibly deploy to Minnesota. Whoops, sorry. Play this.
There, the Pentagon readies 1,500 troops for deployment.
Imagine, if you will, 1,500 troops had been dropped into January 6th. Armed, National Guard, like full kit. You think Benny would have been, well, hey, fuck around and find out, I guess.
To Minnesota. Thank God. Here we go. Pentagon has called up 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for possible deployment in Minneapolis Sunday.
Well, in Minnesota, they might be just sent to some of the small islands in the middle of all those lakes.
Large-scale protests have erupted. Government's immigration crackdown, according to a new report. The Army allegedly issued a prepare to deploy orders in case violent clashes escalate.
Yes, I love maybes. Please report on more maybes.
Warning government against the demonstrators, Washington Post learned. The orders were given by 2 U.S. Army infantry battalions under the 11th Airborne Division based in Alaska, and the troops were specialized for cold weather operation.
Sorry, that's new to me. So they're getting soldiers from Alaska because it's fucking Minnesota, and brrr, you can't expect Alabama National Guard to go up there. Those guys are in Bermuda shorts.
Nice. It's great to have such.
Nice. Yeah, was it nice? Was it nice there, Benny? Huh? Was that nice? How about this? Was this nice on January 6th? Look at all those Trump flags, man. I mean, it's a little hard to tell whose side they're on. Dude has a giant Confederate flag. Hold on, back up. Let's see if I can pause it right here. Whoops. Sorry, get back out of here. There it is. Oh, son of a bitch. See if I can get a really good shot of that when the camera goes. There you go. Look at that right there. Well, oh shit. Let me slide it down a little bit. That's a big Confederate flag right there. Yeah. Next to a blue Gadsden flag, the Don't Tread on Me. Blue? Fuck is wrong with you? Probably an Antifa disguised as a Jan 6er. You know, spent 18 years giving himself diabetes and gout so he'd fit in. Meanwhile, all Trump beanies, fresh Trump merch from the trucks around the Capitol and at the gathering that day. There you go. Just body cam footage of police plumbers crack. Just hitting them with chairs and stealing their batons. And there's a dude dressed like a French mime prisoner. I will say there was a bright moment there. One Confederate flag hit the ground, so you got to take that home and burn it. Sorry, dude. There's a dude that guy was pardoned. There you go. This guy right here. He was pardoned by Donald Trump. This dude right here. This guy who's continually attacking police officers. Went on to do more of that all day long. So, pardon me if I just simply mention that you're blazingly full of shit about this particular issue. Now, here's what I'll tell you. This stuff, not good. Don't put your hands on other people. Don't do it. But let's not play this like false equivalency game when you were cheering on Jan 6ers, including, by the way, pedophiles and domestic abusers and other violent criminals being pardoned by Trump using the auto pen. It's just so fucking stupid. All right, so where was he? He was here. Here you go. This business right here.
The metro area. Now, yesterday, protests violence escalated. Can be heard screaming, "Kill yourself," and "Un-American."
Well, I mean, is that? I mean, it's not nice. Don't yell that at people. But is that different from hang Mike Pence? So they're saying you do it yourself. This is sort of the IKEA of political violence. Some assembly required. But in the case of maggots, them yelling hang Mike Pence, this is an off day. They got swept up. Ray Epps whispered in their ear, told them to cool it. And of course, that is the phrase that the hypnotist put into their head that means charge and beat cops.
To law enforcement. The Washington Post is reporting the Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for possible deployment here to Minnesota if violence escalates. Now, Governor Tim Walz also mobilized the Minnesota National Guard yesterday. The Guard staged to support local law enforcement if needed, and it says it's ready to respond to locations across.
Yeah, these people are terrifying. These would be the majority of peaceful protesters, by the way. And you'll notice that a bunch of the people who show up, like these people are all showing their faces. If you're going to protest, show your face. I know it's scary in the face of the regime, but let's not pretend we live in Iran or Russia or China or that shit. You can show your face. You have the right to peacefully protest. If they put you on a fucking list, you have a recourse in this country. And the more you are willing to show your face with others who are willing to show their faces, then you build steam that way politically. But if you're covering yourself, they can write you off as a Fed, a faker, a paid protester, any of that shit. And that's exactly what they've been doing.
The metro area. Now, yesterday, protests continued outside the ICE detention center, and there was also a violent clash between counter-protesters.
Okay, a violent clash between counter-protesters.
At City Hall. President Trump has warned that he may use the Insurrection Act here in Minnesota, which would allow the federal government to use...
I think all you have to do is put a moratorium on SD cards, and everything would shut down. Almost everybody is there to film. Especially the, quote, counter-protesters.
Military troops to bring calm. Meanwhile, a statewide day of...
They have to cover some of the Trump's a pedo signs. Is Pam Bondi in charge of redacting the protest signs? It probably just says fuck ICE, but...
Action is scheduled for this Friday. Activists are asking people...
I think it says something like Trump fucks kids or something. I can just see the word kids.
Not to attend work, school, or make purchases, and the St. Paul Federation of Educators is also asking members to get involved on Friday.
Who could possibly be against this?
Against what? Against mobilizing the troops? Every American, because we don't police our streets with soldiers? Stupid?
Oh, I don't know. I mean...
Here's a good idea. Why don't you just bring in law enforcement from surrounding territories? And if people deserve to go to jail, use those folks because they're trained to work with civilians and citizens and not meant to be sent to a war where everyone they see that isn't them is meant to be put down.
Listen,
Look, I know you like the uniforms. I know you like seeing those guys walk around in their outfits, and they are sexy. Don't get me wrong. But
again, when
is it enough? I don't know, Jan 7th?
Feds were raiding J6ers, and they
were
using federal forces to attack and terrorize.
Attack and terrorize? What? Hold on. Shit, do I have to play this again for you, you dipshit? Attack and terrorize Jan 6ers? The fuck are you talking about? So, I'm sorry. So this is video, apparently, according to Bendover Johnson, this is video of the police being mean to Trump supporters on January 6th. Obviously, he's talking about, when they went to capture them, because these assholes, again, filmed themselves committing violence against police officers. And, so stupid. Hold on.
Innocent Americans who just were peacefully protesting on January 6th.
What the fuck are you talking about? Here they are climbing through a broken window. Hey, Benny, are you saying, and I don't take this as a threat because I'm pointing out the irony. You're saying that if a bunch of fucking people busted through a window in your house and they came in, you wouldn't view them as intruders? Especially if there were police outside, they had beaten those people up, gotten past them, and were climbing in through the broken windows. You'd be like, come on in, it's a zombie buffet. Just sit down, sit a spell. What a jackass. Okay. Like, it's a joke. It's a fucking joke how, like, the right wing does not see the direct parallels here, and I do mean not see.
Nobody stormed their cars. Nobody attacked them. Nobody burned their vehicles to the ground. This is
what? First of all, don't you just set a car on fire? Or do you burn it to the ground? A house has to burn to the ground because it's there on top of the ground. Never mind.
On January 6th. Nobody stormed their cars. Nobody attacked them. Nobody burned their vehicles to the ground.
Right, because they were catching violent criminals that they had evidence against for directly attacking the seat of American democracy. They were fugitives.
This is something uniquely of the left and uniquely in blue cities. Blue cities should be uniquely targeted.
Yeah, well, they are being uniquely targeted. That was my point about Ohio. But Trump won Ohio, so he's not talking about doing big raids there. They're laying off those areas like crazy. It's interesting that these raids only happen either in places where they just got to get their numbers up, like Idaho, where nobody's looking, or in blue cities. And by the way, blue cities, I don't know what to tell you. That's where all the fucking people are. You know those, what's the word I'm looking for? Americans, that's right.
For engagements like this. Because this is something that only leftists do. Republicans do not form mobs and then go after and trying to rip left-wing protesters limb by limb.
It's limb from limb. And yes, they do. That's Charlotte, Jan 6. These are great examples of this. Also, that was a counter-protester fight, which you did not show if anything led up to the violence towards that guy, if he committed violence, and that's why they were reacting. Both bad. But it's interesting that you start your video in the middle.
Liberals do it every single couple months. It's riot season again. Just confused about the preparing part. Just do it already. Everybody's saying, just do it.
Right, because you're a bunch of reactionary, violent dipshits.
They've not officially given the order. Everyone's saying, let's go.
Not everyone. Assholes on Twitter. Twitter's a shithole, dummy. They always talk about how, like, audience capture and people being victims of audience capture. And I know it's frustrating, chat room, that I refuse to be audience captured, and I will continue to tell you guys the truth even when it irritates some of you, because I care about you, and I think we share the same morals and ethics. So I would like us to be right when we go on one of our when you have a diatribe. I'd like you to be on the right side of an issue and understand all of the moving parts, even if it's, your initial reaction is emotional. I want the follow-up to be factual so that you can align those two things. They do not need to be out of alignment. But in this particular case, like, it's almost like, what's the difference between him going, every time we turn around, Trump is sending troops into a blue city just to start shit so that he can trigger the Insurrection Act. It's the equivalent. The only difference is that protesters, individuals in those cities, actually live there, give a shit about their home, their community, their friends, their families, their schools and businesses. Whereas Trump flies back and forth from fucking Florida and the White House, can't go back to New York because he's so despised there because they know him best. And so he just goes back and forth to two, like, isolated environments. Not unlike, I think, what Benny is doing here in his grandmother's study.
Here come the troop. The president administration is preparing.
Troops plural. I think there was an S on the end of that word, but yeah, you know what? Fuck it.
Donald Trump here on Truth Social saying ICE is removing some of the most violent criminals in the world from our country, bringing them back home where they belong. Why would Minnesota be fighting this? Do they want murderers and drug dealers in their communities? The thugs that are protesting include many highly paid professional agitators and anarchists.
Right. Again, this is why you show your face, and this is why you fearlessly speak out and you carry your sign and you stay local with your protest, because if you're wearing a mask, they will use that as fodder to say that you are a paid protester, and they will use the fact that unfalsifiable argument as an excuse to send troops into your city.
Is it really what Minnesota wants?
Well, Minnesota wants violent criminals and violent illegal immigrants who commit crimes taken out of the community just as much as anybody else does. But they don't want it done in these giant raids that entail hundreds of ICE agents roaring down their fucking streets with, like 64 agents running through a neighborhood to get 3 fucking people that are already on the radar. Somehow Biden didn't have a problem getting these people. Somehow Obama didn't have a problem getting these people. Their deportations both at the border and inside the country were higher than Trump's. Maybe this is it. You know what we really hate? Bend over. You know what we really fucking hate? Government inefficiency. This is a waste of my tax dollars. Why do you need 100 agents to catch 3 people when Democratic leaders have been able to catch the same kind of people with 6? Why is this costing us so much money, Budget Hawk? When are you going to Doge this shit? By the way, it's one of the reasons why Doge was told to go pound sand, because you can't have them looking at the books around this either.
Governor and congresswoman who married your brother don't mind, because that keeps them the attention away from the fraud that has taken place.
Yeah, gee, it's almost like the Epstein files and Trump stirring up this kind of shit on American streets on the regular, strictly so that he can keep us from talking about the Epstein files, which, by the way, the Epstein files are still not being released fully. I think, depending on your interpretation of the law, by the way, the Epstein Transparency Act, that Pam Bondi could ultimately be facing 23 million years in jail. Done to the maximum. 3 years per count. Somewhere in the order of 7 to 7.5 million files still held, still under redaction, and yet no reason given, which is also a violation. So not releasing it is one thing, but not saying why you're not releasing it is another thing. Not fully explaining every redaction is another violation of the law, each punishable with 3 years in jail and a $10,000 fine, which is standard to USC 2071, 18 USC 2071. That's the destruction of and hiding documents law, whatever. That law, it's 10,000 per count and a maximum of 3 years. So in the maximum, I take it back. That would be say 3 counts per image or document. We're talking. Pam Bondi would have to do 70 million years in jail. Why are you supporting a criminal? And by the way, everybody who helped her too. So Kash Patel and Bong Holio. Hey man, just because you quit doesn't mean you were guilty up to that point. He stayed on past the law going into effect, right? So every day it didn't come out and he didn't participate in it, and that was part of his job as deputy director of the FBI. Each one of them deserves, and on their own math from the law that passed Congress and Donald Trump signed into law, 73 million years in jail.
We are.
Sorry, I think it's closer to 43. 46, 3 counts per 7, 21, and 20, 65. Let's just round it to 65 million years. How about that? So Pam Bondi should go to jail for 65 million years, according to a law that Donald Trump signed a few months ago.
On it. Let's freaking go. By
the way, the way he reads those tweets with such a butch, masculine feel when they say, let's fucking go. And he's like, let's fucking go. guys. Let's fucking go.
Argument against this is pretty weak, frankly, by America's most cucked mayor, Jacob Fry. I'll let you judge for yourself here.
Also, why cucked? Doesn't cucked actually mean something? I mean, you guys call Ben Shapiro cucked, so I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe it's now devolved into an urban slang.
Like literally holding back tears on the CNN interview, knowing not only that he's under criminal investigation for obstructing ICE and probably criminal investigation for fraud, but now he will have a city under military rule.
Which sounds really un-American.
And hopefully he'll be arrested just like Tim Walz. Anyway.
Walz hasn't been arrested. He's not going to be arrested.
Here you go. Cry more about it. Salty tears. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
That's it. That's the...
There are 1,500 active duty U.S. soldiers on standby to deploy to your state.
This act was clearly designed to intimidate the people of Minneapolis. And here's the thing. We're not going to be intimidated. If the goal here is safety, we've got many mechanisms to achieve safety. And the best way to get safety is not to have an
I'm sorry, I can't hear him through the sobbing, Benny.
Influx of even more agents, and in this case, military, in Minneapolis. Right now, we have about 600 police officers, and they've got 3,000 or so ICE agents and Border Control. That they are now talking about deploying 1,500 military. This is, well, it's ridiculous, but we will not be intimidated by the actions of...
All right, why... Where did he get the whole, like, through tears or that he was tearing up part? Is this just an assumed... This is just macho bitch talk from Benny? Is that what this... Like, with it... Because it sounds pretty mayoral to me. But is that what this twerp is asserting? That was crying and outrage and whatever. It's you know, it's interesting to me how often people can everything becomes a meltdown if it's the other side. If somebody's aggravated or outraged or they say something, you know, or they push back on something, if somebody on the right yells about something, Midas will say they melted down and their side will say they stood up to the liberals and blah, blah, blah. And then vice versa. If somebody on our side, you know, speaks just directly, just overtly calling something out or even raises their voice in doing it, on our side, they're a fighter. On the other side, they're losing it. They're snapping. It's, you know, they cracked or whatever the hell. It's so lame. Especially when these issues... and even being charitable, have a lot of emotions on either side, that the idea that somebody's losing it because they raise their voice over something, or that if they're struck by, you know, the emotion of something. I mean, I mocked the fuck out of Greg Kelly because he basically thought he was going to live happily ever after with Ashley Babbitt, and he still lives in that weird fucking fantasy land. But I'm not, like, when he gets upset about her death, I'm not mocking him for the actual emotion, the crying. I'm mocking him for the reasoning behind that. Because again, I personally believe, and this is because I'm right about this, is that we think first and emote second. You have made a decision about what something means, and therefore that's why you become emotional about it. If somebody passes away that you love, and you have decided that you love them and you know that you love them, that passing makes you sad. If you hated the person forever, it will not make you sad. You might even have a different reaction because you have already made up your mind what that thing means before it happens. Abjectly, you can be emotional when you see someone pass away if it's a stranger, but then you will decide in that moment before you move on to the next emotion, am I sad about this because of factors I see before me, or do I think this was justified because of the factors I see before me? And then you will cry or laugh, whatever your response is, okay? So this is, it's just, people are stupid. All right, latest Greenland, people like that are stupid. I should be specific. I like people. People like Benny Johnson are stupid. And let's see, here we go. And I want to save that one for the end. This is Trump getting the Trump Boulevard. They made a little like celebration video so Pop can watch it.
President Donald J. Trump Boulevard now stands as a permanent reminder for courage.
Where am I? I got road. I'm on the road. You know.
Leadership and unapologetic patriotism.
I love the people of Florida. I love the entire Palm Beach area. I've been here.
Especially that house that's about 9 minutes away where Jeff and Ghislaine used to live. Great. They always had a great omelet bar, better than Mar-a-Lago. Not saying much. Most Waffle Houses after a fire have a better omelet bar, but still good stuff. Like it. All right.
For a long time, and I want to thank you all for being here. I'll remember this amazing gesture for the rest of my life. We're gonna
both weeks
have 3 more.
I'm not saying anything's going to happen to him. From the outside, I think it's going to happen internally. God damn. President Donald J. Trump Boulevard, designated by the 2025 legislature of Florida. Isn't that nice? Now everybody's got something to hawk dog shit at when they're out walking their dog.
Great years, but hopefully we're going to have many, many decades of greatness in this country. So we have it off to the right start. Thank you all.
We have it off to the right start. This is how bad it's getting. They can't even make a 30-second ad where he doesn't speak gibberish.
Thank you very much. What an honor. Thank you.
Jeez, and it even dies out at the end. What an honor. By Grabthaw's hammer. What a savings. Yeah, the 30-second ad. Your tax dollars at work, folks. That's from the White House. That was made with your tax dollars. Yeah. Now, let's see. Apparently, the America First blow-up doll, Trish Regan, says there's only one thing that could ruin Trump's booming economy. You liking and subscribing to my show. Huh? Gotcha. Hit the like, share the show, subscribe, will ya? We got to hit 100K. We got to do it. We can do it. We hit 87. We can do it. It's coming. It's been a long time coming. We're chugging up that hill. There's just no excuse. Help us hit 100,000. I guess, is that the language that Midas uses all the time? Help us hit 100,000 while they're saying, help us hit 5 million. You're telling me? Look, I know I'm being shadow banned by the deep state, but still. All right.
He's out there saying, okay, I'm going to
she's still wearing her matte version of Wilma Deering's roller derby outfit.
do this much. I'm going to buy all these mortgage bonds up and Fannie and Freddie go for it. That'll help. That'll actually help bring mortgage rates down. And what
as much as a Snapchat filter gone awry
might help even more, right, is having a Fed chief.
Seriously, who is your esthetician? Willy Wonka?
That is lowering rates. And it's not just the Fed chief. You need the whole Fed to go along with it.
Yeah. Not those deep state Fed guys that are in there. Yeah.
And so he wants those lower rates, and he wants them fast. He knows.
Yeah, but if you're saying if inflation's a problem, and it is, and they lower the rates too much, then debt becomes cheaper than investing or holding on to the money, and so people just start borrowing money to put in like the market, for example, where that guaranteed once you hit that return point, you're like, well, why don't I borrow $100,000, put it in the market, do that again, just keep doing that, and then eventually, one of them will pay off. It's like a pony at the races. If it keeps going up, and then I can just swell it out, pay off the loan, and do this as a 6-month rollover, and that's exactly what happens. And you got a bunch of money in circulation that isn't doing anybody any good. It's just money making money for certain people who don't need any more money, but it's still technically on the books, and that increases our national debt, and la la la.
Knows that it's important for the success of the economy to be able to have this kind of liquidity out there. And so he's talking today. I want to go again to this out.
Yeah, if you can't bring down prices, flood the world with money. That's it. Money printer go burr is what she's saying.
About the benefits of the strong economy in 2026. I do think there's a lot to be excited about. I really do.
I agree. 250th anniversary. I'm going to be enjoying it in spite of Trump, not, because of him. And then, of course, moon trips that launched today, which is very nice, and that kind of stuff, and robots taking over.
2026. And you can read more about my thoughts on the economy if you go to my financial research company.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
At 76 Research. Look, I put it on the screen. Use code word dollar.
Not 1776 Research?
To get the 76 report, it's just $1 a month for the first 2 months. Then we go to $9.95. But hopefully it's the best $9.95 you've ever spent in your entire.
Yeah, not possible. But ChatGPT, there's a no ads version for $8 that gives you all the tools that are available in the pro thing. You just are limited in how much you can do it, but you can do it all in an hour a day. You could build an entire industry off that. So no, definitely not.
Entire life, because hopefully you take our research and you do something with it, because we line it all out for you. In fact, we
How absorbent is it? Does it come in two-ply?
even have model portfolios that you can subscribe to, so you can see exactly what we are believing are the best opportunities for investment right now. But
let me guess, Trump gold, Trump watches, Trump shoes, Trump licorice, Trump beef jerky.
Let me go to the president speaking in Detroit, talking about how good it's going to be. He's going to.
Thank God this isn't smell-o-vision.
Funny.
Now, after less than 12 months in office, I'm back in Michigan to report to you on the strongest and fastest economic turnaround in our country's history.
Not even close. I mean, arguably, it's a toss-up between 2021 into 2022 in terms of COVID, once people started getting back on their feet and people were getting vaccinated, or 2009-10 under Obama.
It's been historic. There's never been, when we're not 12 months, we're through 11 months. We've got $18 trillion being invested in our country. The most of any country ever was 3. We're at 18. There's never been.
Also, he thinks $3 trillion went to China at some point, and that was the largest amount that ever went in 1 year, which is just ridiculous, especially considering, dollars now versus dollars during World War II.
Anything like this. You are so lucky I allow you into this room to even be with me. I'm kidding.
No, he isn't.
I'm kidding. The fake news will say Donald Trump thinks he's hot stuff. Right now I'm feeling pretty good, though, I will say.
Well, you're high as a fucking kite, yeah.
Oh, you're so lucky to be here. Under our administration, growth is exploding, productivity is soaring.
Nope.
Investment is
also wait. Also, all the productivity gains are all AI based, and they certainly didn't start this, last year in 2025.
Incomes are rising. Nope. Inflation is defeated.
No.
America is
and also if he has to say inflation is defeated, even if it isn't, because he's got to get whoever his next Fed chairman is to lower the interest rates by at least a point. That's what he wants. Largely because he did not refinance all of his loans like the other people who own a big chunk of the Trump building in Chicago, for example. Trump is paying I want to say something like 6% interest on it, and everybody else in the building is paying 2%. Because Trump thought he was going to get Powell to go to negative interest rates during 2020, and he was going to refinance when it got to 0 or less, under 0. He wanted negative. If you recall, he wanted a negative interest rate. He wanted the government, he wanted the taxpayer to pay him to have financed his buildings. That's what he was hoping for.
Elected again like never before.
That's great.
Yeah, I was laughing too, but for a completely different reason.
Look, there's a lot to be optimistic about. Things are really looking up. Again, you have the recent report.
Well, when you're this far down, everything is looking up.
Report out of the Federal Reserve Bank in Atlanta talking about 5.4% economic growth. I mean, that's an economy that's on fire. Thank you very much.
No, that's a rebound after the shutdown.
Very much.
This is an absolutely booming economy right now.
If you've got money and you're sitting on millions of dollars.
Yeah. So what could slow it down? What could?
Stupid Americans not appreciating our president, the greatest president in the history of ever. They don't appreciate him, and then they're gonna give stupid Democrats control and stuff, and then all the magic's gonna go away.
Possibly slow it down. I don't know. Maybe this
In addition, I proudly called for the credit card companies to cap interest rates at 10% for 1 year because they're getting 28 and 30%.
Oh, sorry, annually. You're not gonna cap them for a year.
And 32%.
Okay, all right. So now we have to back up for a second. Nobody likes the credit card companies. I get it. Nobody wants to be charged 30% interest rate. I mean, it's outrageous. It's insane. But you know what? What are we looking at? Like 7-8% on car loans and similar on 30-year mortgages right now. I mean, we got high rates on everything. I mean, it's wild, right? I mean, I think about...
Yeah. Also, the credit card, that's your annual percentage rate, which you don't pay if you pay it off every month or every other month. If you roll it over, it would accumulate over the course of a year, but it's a credit card. It's not meant to be a long-term loan anyways. And if you cap it at 10, what the reality is that most people who use credit cards the way they're meant to be used aren't going to see any benefit or any change at all. They'll pay them off every other month if they're trying to grow their credit score by owing money, which is so fucking weird. Or they'll just keep them empty all the time. They'll just pay it off at the end of the month and go back to a zero balance because they're really just using it as a holdover temporarily to be more, have more cash on hand in case something else goes awry. That's it. So they can punt it if they need to by a couple of months if something happens during the month. That's the way. That's the hedge of like the middle class and upper middle class hedge that a credit card is for. But that's if he caps it at 10. The people who are being charged the 20-30% because they ride the balance, those people are just going to be denied credit cards. They're just not going to be able to have that at all, which will drive them into the direction of payday loans, which he doesn't give a shit about. As a matter of fact, his buddies are in the payday loan business, and he'd rather have them there. He'd rather have them borrowing against their paycheck for months and months and months than and have that person hold their paycheck effectively going forward because it acts as a form of direct deposit. If you don't pay it off after a certain amount of time, they just start taking your paycheck, right? That's what will happen. That's what he wants to have happen.
My own mortgage is like 2%. It's fantastic, right? But of course, why would you ever move? I don't need to move. I don't want to move. But if rates are so high right now compared to when people were buying before, like it creates a stagnancy in the economy. And you can't fix it by waving a magic wand and saying, I'm going to get rid of those high interest rates. I'm going to prevent credit card companies from charging anything more than 10. Think about that for a second.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's fucking dumb.
What does that actually mean? What if you're like a young family that has bad credit and you really need the credit for something? You're not going to get it. Like people who can't afford it will
look at that broken clock moment.
Never be able to get it because what are the banks going to do? You can't force them to lend. They have to be compensated because their risk for some people with very bad credit portfolios are off the charts. I mean, think about what they did. Remember those no income, no asset loans that Barney Frank was so high on back in the day? It led to the whole subprime mortgage crisis.
Yeah, it almost completely describes how Trump financed all of his buildings.
Right? You do not want to be in a situation where you're forcing banks to lend and you're forcing them to make decisions, I guess, for political reasons, right? Because this is entirely political.
Yeah. Do you feel like she's stumbled into an area where she's starting to recognize, whether she wants to or not, that Trump just doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and is just trying to throw every populist lever he thinks he's got available to him? Because that's what this is. This is just him trying to convince people he's going to throw... I mean, he might as well just come out and say he's going to do Nasara Jassara tomorrow.
I mean, I think Warren baited him into this one. Gosh darn it. Anytime you're like hanging out with Elizabeth Warren and, on the phone with Elizabeth Warren, I'm just going to say, woohoo, warning. All right, same.
Yeah, I don't think this came from Elizabeth Warren. She created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Trump and Doge have done everything they can to undermine it. You want to keep people's costs low? You make sure that they're not being defrauded first.
With Mandami. Apparently he's been chatting up Mandami too.
Yeah, but they're just talking, it's just sex talk at this point. Trump just clearly wants to rub up on him.
Don't let those socialists get into your head. Not that they would. But
What are you talking about? If it wasn't for like the protections of the rich and the government looking the other way, Trump would have been in jail before he did The Apprentice.
I think that there's a political motivation for this. It would be a disaster for the economy. Let me be really clear, okay? You know that I always shoot
Why are you telling us? Tell him, stupid.
straight with you. And I love what this president is doing on so many levels. And I'm looking out for him and I want to.
No, you don't. You like when he's a dick. Every time you chase down one of his actual policies, you know it's stupid. If you even have any of the financial awareness you pretend to have, you fucking know this. You know you're asking him for money printer go burr. You're asking for monetary inflation. You can't just like loan tons of money into existence for giant corporations and rich borrowers like him and expect some kind of trickle down, especially in the short term. It never worked in the long term, but it certainly wasn't even presented as a possibility that it would.
The best for the U.S. economy and for you.
Jesus Christ.
And for him. But this would be kind of a recipe for disaster. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, she's like, this is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Like, hey, maybe Trump and I can be friends now. I mean, this was moments after she had gone, I think she was speaking in New York just yesterday. No, she was speaking at the National Press Club, yeah. And she just torched him for this affordability issue, which frankly is a little bit fake, I'm just gonna say. Like, I know things are high, but they're high compared to where they were. Because guess what? When he was last in office, we hadn't had Jerome Powell's money printing. And
okay, we didn't have Jerome Powell's money printing. Motherfucker. Like, how many times do we have to deal with this? We did not have monetary inflation due to COVID. You cannot patch a $22 trillion hole in the economy with $9 trillion in cash. You never can. The amount of money that was lost during COVID was never made up by any level of government money printing. It was supply shock. That's what drove up prices. The rest of the world is still lagging behind. Americans, because we have more money than the rest of the world, are buying our way to the front of the line to get stuff. That's why the price is high. We're paying a scalper, effectively, for everything that we get. Good Lord. COVID caused supply shock. The ramifications of it are still being felt. Period. There is not too much money in circulation, you dim bulb.
Nancy and Chuck's multi-trillion-dollar stimulus, and we
Oh, you mean the one that Trump signed off on? That was still inadequate?
hadn't had all of the third stimulus check round coming our way. So there was a
You mean the one that Trump promised?
lot of money printed, and that's what led to 9.6%.
No, it's not. The interest rate was raised by the Volckerites within the Fed, along with Jerome Powell, because they believe the monetary inflation idea. Because all the markers are, oh dear, there's prices are going up. One of the ways, and unemployment is low. And the one way that you actually can fight that in using the kind of Volcker methodology is you raise interest rates, because apparently there's too much money in circulation. It does not take into account the physical goods, the availability, the supply and demand problem where the global supply chain got fucked into a cocked hat. Jesus Christ.
Consumer price index increases. It was crazy, but it's not crazy anymore. And so
no, it's not. This is none of what's happening right now. It's crazy. Everything is completely normal. Soldiers on the streets invading Greenland, night raids in fucking Venezuela and an armada in the Gulf of America. There's nothing crazy about that. Could Trump calling Southern Boulevard the southern border? That's not crazy. That's completely. Finally, we've reached happy world. We're all happy now. Everything's much better. Isn't that nice?
this is kind of the new normal, and I know it feels rough, but...
Oh, shit. Let's... One more time?
But it's not crazy anymore. And so this is kind of the new normal, and I know it feels rough, but listening to Elizabeth Warren isn't going to get you there.
This is kind of the new normal. That's like what I've been saying and what Jeff Snyder said, and like, the prices aren't going to go down. The only thing you can do is keep them from going up as fast. Until you automate away all labor, which is part of what they're trying to do.
I know.
But nothing, not that crazy. This is not crazy at all. Everything's completely normal. This is how it should be. This is like it was when America was great in 1830.
Just about an hour ago that President Trump has said that he wants to talk about bringing down housing costs. I guess he's trying to jump in the spotlight here. But the American people need action. Let's be clear. We have done the hard work here in the United States Senate, and we have passed the road to...
Look how she's looking at Elizabeth Warren, who's actually talking about real policy and an actual bill.
Housing, which is a bill that will increase housing supply. We passed it unanimously in the United States Senate. Now it's hung up over in the House of Representatives by Republicans, and Donald Trump has not lifted a finger to get that bill through, to get housing supply expanded, and to help push down costs. Instead...
Real quick, also notice that she's agreeing. Look at her eyes. She is agreeing with Elizabeth Warren right now. This has got to be painful. She's like, but, I mean, yeah, it'd probably be, it passed the Senate. That means Republicans in the Senate, including probably whoever our next presidential candidate's going to be.
We come together on a day when Donald Trump's administration has just approved the merger of the two biggest real estate outfits in this country, which will further drive up the cost of buying and selling homes. You give us the chance, we are going to deliver lower housing costs for the American
but we can't
people.
give you that chance, okay? Let me just be really clear. I think he's passing...
Wait. No. Real quick, she's not arguing that would be true. She's saying we can't give you that chance because you're a socialist or you're a Democrat or both or whatever. She's not arguing that it would work, because it would. What Elizabeth Warren is talking about there is not socialism or some sort of democratic fucking wish list. It passed the Senate, dipshit.
Her bone here. He's smarter than this. I mean...
No. He never was, and he sure as shit ain't now.
He knows. Like, I'm sorry. If, like, your average car loan, and I actually should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. Forgive me. I'm going to...
Excuse me one second. What's the average car loan? Loan rate in 2026. Okay, let's see. Here's a forward-looking snapshot. 6.6 to 7% APR for a typical 60-month new car loan. Edmunds data indicates that 6.6 as of late 2025 into early 2026 expected to carry into the year. Used cars significantly higher. If you want to buy a used car, it's going to cost you 11 to 12% because of that resale value. These aren't averages for everyone, by the way. Super prime, if you have a really good score, is about 5%. Still not great, though. Prime and good, 6 to 5, 7. Non-prime, subprime, 9% to 15%. Used cars, 7, 9, 10, and 13, 20. Analysts expect slightly lower APRs for new cars in 2026, potentially dipping towards 6.4% on a 60-month low. Ooh, be still my revving heart. Used car loans rates follow suit, but often remain a few points higher due to risk and vehicle depreciation, also because of where you get the loans from. If you got excellent credit, you're in a sweet spot. Blah, blah, blah. Quick takeaway. In 2026, average car loan rates were 6.5% to 7%. Just saying.
So if you guys know, tell me, but I'm going to go with, say, like 7% or something right now. If it's around...
Nailed it.
7, okay?
New car.
If it's around...
She didn't buy used. What is she, Warren Buffett?
Around 7, then guess what? 10, capping at 10, like that's not going to fly for credit cards because that's the riskiest pool of all. Like nobody's going to be able to take out a credit card. Nobody's going to...
Yeah, no one's going to get one. And you know what's interesting? That's not true that no one's going to get one. It just means that poor people and people on the edge of being poor who rely on that as a function of rollover debt to protect themselves so that they can pay rent if something goes sideways and give them a couple of months cushion specifically, those people aren't going to be able to get a credit card worth shit.
Have any credit card debt? I guess that's one way to get rid of credit card debt. We're just not going to allow it because basically we're going to shut the banks off. Anyway,
Yeah, because fuck those people. Because he'll never be denied a loan, shithead. Because big developers don't operate that way. They don't need the loan. And then it gives them a reason to if you're trapped, you need a house, period. And because you have to move for work and there's just nothing available there or whatever, you're going to pay the interest rate on a shittier house because you can't afford the house you deserve. You're going to spend most of that money to the banks. And if they own a piece of the bank too, get the fuck out of here.
he's all excited. Guess what? He called her. He called her after her speech. Trust me, I don't think he watched her speech. It may have just been a coincidence.
Maybe they just talk. Maybe they just, maybe he was just talking to Mom Donnie and he's like, hey, have you talked to Liz today? And he's like, Liz? Warren, I'll call her next if you want me to. You want me to say anything? Can I carry a message?
Anyway, she's like, he called me after my speech. We discussed this same message on affordability. I discussed it with him directly. I told him that Congress can pass legislation to cap credit card rates if he will actually fight for it.
Also, by the way, she's not saying cap at 10. Capping credit card rates, it should be a tiered system to make sure that they don't venture into where people are, enslaved by their debt. They're not held up by their debt. And they should have some way of getting out from under it if something goes sideways. But he's just making up the fucking 10% number because it sounds good to him. Sounds like a tip.
I also urged him to get House Republicans to pass the Bipartisan Road to Housing Act, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so she's going to kill or is trying to kill our economy. Donald Trump will not take that bait. I predict.
How is she trying to kill the economy? He's the one who came up with 10, stupid. She's talking about capping it at different rates for lowering it overall in every category instead of just a flat baseline. He's trying to, again, scalpel instead of a sledgehammer.
And my predictions are always right. Are they not? What?
Jesus Christ. You said Trump would just get better every day.
Have they not been? Sometimes a little too ahead of myself, but I typically...
Yes, Trish Regan, the Elon Musk of Trump's suck-ups.
Get it right.
No, you don't. So anyways, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a little affected by the outfit, which is very Wilma Deering, but luckily I'm so off-put by her Snapchat filter, the Carrie Laking of her face, that it makes up for it. Yep. Okay. So next up, hit the like, by the way, share the show, etc., etc., etc. Let me see if I can get rid of this guy right here. Now, I want to jump into this. This is, I don't know what the timing on this is, and I don't really watch a lot of this. Hal liked Aaron Gray back in the day. Hal still likes Aaron Gray back in the day. The new hero / also villain of Trump world is Lil Nicky Fuentes, and the title of this video. When is this? This is today. When did this go out? This is 2 days ago, the day before yesterday. So I think this was his Saturday show or something, or yeah. Is titled "Trump Always Chickens Out," and always is in caps. So that's maggot for I'm serious this time. Well, I'm needle dropping this because I have not watched any of this guy's stuff, but I'm curious to see what the voice of the new right thinks about Trump. Ass forecast? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This is
he's not wearing a suit anymore. He's wearing his grandfather's rain poncho.
This is why I tell you guys, we got to crank up the pressure. You got to keep the pressure up. This is why we do it.
This is why we do it. Sorry.
I hear from people all the time. They say, well, why are you so negative about Trump? There's a lot of good things. Whose side are you on? You only criticize the right wing.
I gotta say, I enjoy it when these guys' chat rooms eat them alive. Like between, I don't know, I can't decide who hates their chat room more, him or Hassan.
This is why we do it.
At least Nick, as racist and fidgety as he is, he doesn't shock a dog during the show. I don't know what he does off time, but.
You ready for this? So our big story for tonight comes from Axios.
Oh, you're citing legacy mainstream media. Cool.
It talks about how Trump administration officials are starting to get a little bit nervous about how the mass deportations and ICE operations are being perceived by the general public.
By which part? Mean or a failure? Because they're both a big, stupid, cruel failure.
They're looking at
which also describes Trump as a human being. Sure.
Opinion polling and the opinion surveys that is being conducted about these policies, and the American public doesn't like it. And you can feel how you want about it. I have my feelings about it, which you know. It's not popular.
Oh, we know.
And we could go into why that is and what that means and everything, but the numbers are the numbers. The public is turning against the mass deportations.
Mainly because they're half of them hate them because of how they're being carried out, and the other one half hates them because they aren't actually mass deportations at all. You can't even call them that, fuckwad. They're getting like half a dozen people. There's no airplanes full of illegals or fucking, caravans of Greyhound buses driving down to El Salvador, or there's no, they didn't capture that Russian tanker and fill it full of illegals and send it back to South America. It's not only stupid and cruel, it's ineffective. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he's checked all the worst boxes.
They're turning against that policy.
Or lack thereof, I guess. Well, it'd be a policy without a strategy or a tactic, or they're turning against the tactic, and never mind.
And that was evident early on. It seems that after Trump secured the border, the appetite for massive deportations
and the inability to have any because there weren't anywhere near the number of people in the country that he said there were. There aren't. There are not 35 million more immigrants in this country than there were 5 years ago. There aren't. They don't exist. It's a fucking fiction.
Started to diminish.
Because there was a bipartisan bill to do everything that he did closing the border, which would have supplied all the necessary tech and people down there to actually handle the border and allow trucks and stuff that are bringing in goods and I suppose fentanyl into the country and keep it rolling and just keep the populace of people that were crossing the Rio Grande from coming in, which is a minor affect compared to the people that fly in, again, with fentanyl in their suitcase, I guess. So that was already there. We already agreed on that. Everybody already agreed you wanted to have a secure border, and there was this bum rush. And interestingly enough, the caravans themselves stopped. As it's almost like the Russian money that was paying for them dried up.
So this has been going on for a long time. But now that we've seen so many of the ICE raids and the hype edits and all this stuff on social media, well, now we're seeing that the public is also turning against ICE.
Gee, I can't imagine why. Could it be the Nazi tattoos are okay by us part? I got to tell you, that gave me pause.
Gen Z, Hispanic men, a lot of these people.
Texans. Yeah, that was the other one. There's a big thing about how, I forget who it was. Was it Karl Rove? Was talking about, like, Hispanics hate this so much we could lose Texas. Oh.
They came over for the Republicans in 24. They're turning against Trump because they don't like what they see in the videos. And people in the administration are taking...
Also, by the way, they don't like the fact that there aren't deportations at the same time. They feel afraid because they were promised you're going to get the criminals out and all these new people that are allegedly here. And then they don't see these giant groups of people leaving. They see him catching the same assholes that every administration catches when they go in picking somebody up or raiding a fucking food plant and then going, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to give the guy who runs the place, he's a buddy of mine. He can have the honor system with everybody he hires under the table. Fuck it.
Note of that, and they're getting concerned about the midterms.
Gee. I don't know why. It's the country is doing better than ever. There's $17 trillion. I got my cut. Did you get yours?
They're saying if people don't like the deportations, if we're losing Gen Z, if we're losing Joe Rogan, if we're losing Hispanics, if we're losing women.
There's a difference? I'm sorry, I just thought Joe Rogan, never mind.
Well, we're already kind of in poor shape with a number of other demographic cohorts. What's it going to look like in the midterms?
You're going to get your ass handed to you?
And so they're starting to talk about
cheating in the election, shutting down the elections, not having elections.
Changing the strategy.
Oh, okay. So this was the story where Mike Johnson suggests he wants a bunch of ideas on how to litigate the midterms to protect them from the backlash that's going to come because healthcare costs are going up.
I told you at the top of the show, this is how it starts. So
no, this is kind of how it ends. This is the beginning of the end.
This is a story. This is from Axios. I'll read through this. It says, quote, President Trump's team recently reviewed private GOP polling that showed support for his immigration policies falling. The results reflected in public surveys bolstered internal concern about the administration's confrontational enforcement tactics. Now,
and lack of results. I need to add that every single time. We're seeing all these fucking trucks and them running people, out of their homes and picking people up. They picked up a dude in, where was it? It was either in, I think it was in Minnesota. They got this guy who's a naturalized citizen. He was in the shower. They took him out in sub-zero temperatures, drove him around the block, ran his paperwork and all that stuff. He came back legal. They just dropped him off back at the house after pointing a gun at his wife and dragging him out soaking wet in sub-degree temperature, in sub-zero temperatures. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why that group is turning on him. Because not only are they not getting rid of the bad people that they said there were millions and millions and millions. How hard should it be to find these motherfuckers? There's hundreds of thousands. They're everywhere. There's 6 of them on every street corner. But you can't find them. But you're going to drag this guy out of his house in the fucking snow in his underwear?
Now, as the chaotic scenes from Minnesota play out around the clock on TV and social media, Axios
good old shitter
has learned that some Trump advisors quietly are talking about recalibrating the White House's approach.
Flip-flopping, I think, is what it's traditionally called.
Although it's unclear what changes Trump might embrace, if any.
What changes could he do without doing an about face, which he doesn't have the moral character to do?
Recalibrating, changing tactics.
Yeah, like he's an evil GPS that gets you lost on purpose.
Because of the wall-to-wall coverage on social media.
And the ineffectiveness of the raids themselves. On top of, I got to tell you, people would take this kind of shit. They really would. If they went in and they just round up. We found 400 of these sex predator psychopaths in a little club together having their weekly meeting on who they were going to victimize next, right? And we got them, look at all these guys, we're going to fucking shackle them out. They all got face tattoos and, and we were marching them out to a vehicle. And then it was one after the other, after the other. I got news for you. A lot of these assholes would put up with this shit. They would. They would let it slide if they saw what they thought was the policy being effective. What they're seeing, though, is just a bunch of civil unrest for no fucking reason. Some of us are against it because it's un-American and we have other methods and systems by which to deal with threats like this or bad people in the neighborhoods and that kind of stuff. And you can argue that they should be better handled by the local law enforcement and there should be pressure to do so and yada, yada, yada. That's governance. That's democracy. That's people dealing with their own communities and their own cities and states. But this is ubiquitous across the whole fucking country. We're not seeing these kind of raids like resolve in a bunch of bad guys and gang members being rounded. We're not seeing a fucking line of Trende Aragua and MS-13 guys being rounded the fuck up. Instead, we're seeing hairdressers who are being sent to fucking CCOT for a tattoo that people think means they're in a gang.
Sound familiar?
Yes, he's a liar and he always shits the bed.
It says, the worries in part of Trump's brain trust are the first signs
That's adorable.
of internal second-guessing of his controversial ICE enforcement tactics.
Why is it controversial? What makes it controversial? I hate when they just use these fucking words. I'm going to hit this over and over again. It isn't just that it's cruel. It's that the cruelty does not actually serve a purpose. That's why you're losing these people. You never had my side of the aisle. We stopped at the cruelty part. We can do that. But you're losing people on your side of the aisle because it's ineffective. There is no there. It brings the lie to what he said about 35 million illegal psychopaths running around the goddamn. They dumped them in from Venezuela. They dumped them in from Colombia and everywhere in South America. They were in the Congo.
Say it isn't so. They're second guessing 2 weeks into the midterm election year. Who could have predicted it? I'm floored. I'm shocked. What a surprise.
I think this is sarcasm, but I really can't tell because his voice always sounds like a 15-year-old.
The private polling suggested a rupturing of the coalition of independent, moderate, and minority voters who are key parts of Trump's victory in 2024. Such voters will play a big role in determining whether Republicans keep their slim House majority in November's midterms. A top Trump advisor told Axios, I wouldn't say he's concerned about the policy. He wants deportations. He wants mass deportations. What he doesn't want is what people are seeing.
The cruelty and the lack of mass deportations. I can't hit that hard enough. This is one of the things you need to hang around the neck of every maggot who brings this stuff up. Where are the plane and busloads of these illegals that are supposedly here? They're all psychopaths that got dumped out of prison. There is not a single lunatic, murderer, rapist, psychopath in a South American prison that doesn't have tattoos all over their body that go like a fucking World War II fighter pilot where they've got a bunch of women on their arm with a line and a circle through it. You can't find these folks. You're like climbing up on a goddamn roof to get one guy who's roofing in the hot sun in fucking Texas for $8 an hour. And they're like, we got the crazy man. You're like, yeah, crazy for working that hard for that kind of money, you mean?
He doesn't like the way it looks. It looks bad.
Because it's ineffective. I don't know why anybody doesn't point this out. Fuck this dude. The mainstream media, everybody cites them. This idea that nobody listens to mainstream media anymore is garbage. But I got to tell you, one of the big failures is that for some reason, they have just floated with the lie that this number he said about 25, 35 million illegals came into the country in the last 5 years, and they all came from lunatic asylums and prisons and all that kind of shit. They take it to heart. They just move on. They just act as if. No, that was never true. It's such a lie that Trump and his cabinet have been talking about how 1 million people self-deported. Based on what? People who are vacationing here and decided, I got to get the fuck out of here. I'm Hispanic and they're going to round me up and say I snuck in here. I'm here on a fucking visa. I was going to Disney World. I'm getting the shit out of here. So everybody who was visiting in the country or visiting family or wherever split. They weren't here illegally. They just left because it's no fun to be here right now. And they're counting like visiting tourists and other people who just flew in and flew back. And I guarantee, by the way, that there are people who flew in from Mexico and flew back and flew in from Mexico and flew for business all the time. You know, that's what they do. They work with a company here. So they fly in from Mexico and they fly back, and they do it several times. That every time that person flies back, the Trump administration counts that one person going back home in their business trip as a self-deporting immigrant. I guarantee it. Another one left. When they come back in, they don't count. That's just a businessman coming to visit. But when they leave, that's an illegal. That's a Tren de Aragua guy flying himself home. Guarantee it. Yes, Mag has TDS, truth derangement syndrome. I would say they have Trump derangement syndrome because you'd have to be fucking deranged to vote for this guy. Speaking of deranged, Trump's favorite butthole surfer, Alex Jones here, it thinks that the Greenland thing is his attempt to get us out of NATO, which would only benefit Putin so that he could attack other countries, as if NATO would cease to exist without us, because it won't. They'd still have Article 5 amongst those other countries. It would just get really ugly, and plus we would absolutely join in, against, like Trump might slow the roll like he would have done in Ukraine if he could.
If you are struggling to
understand the environment, no, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to get it.
If you have diabetes,
I'm not
this
putting Vaseline on the
anti-diabetes
back
recipe flushes sugar from your blood
That's
and
not
drops
true.
Order, he is a savant.
Okay, I don't know if he's talking about Trump, but he just called him a savant. I mean, I think you have to put the word idiot on the front of that legally.
And the entire global corporate media is in absolute meltdown mode over his letter to NATO and to Denmark.
Denmark. By the way, when the fuck did his acid reflux get so bad that he sounds like Wolfman Jack now? Hey, everybody, come on, man. We're going to play the hits for you tonight, my babies. That's right. I'm Alex Jones. We got the new hit from the New World Order. All right.
Over Greenland that, well, since I didn't get my Peace Prize.
Fuck peace. That's basically what he said.
I guess it's war then. But
yeah. Which, by the way, if Obama had said that, like if they'd have skipped Obama's Peace Prize and Obama had said that, you'd be freaking out. Right, here comes the New World Order, baby. It's time that the globalists are gonna start a new world order. Then they're gonna subjugate us, baby. This is the Obama Biden administration lining up with China, baby.
Trump isn't obsessed with the stupid Nobel Prize.
Yes, he is.
He's using that to beat the EU and NATO over the head.
No, he isn't. He's whining like a bitch.
That have refused to do a peace deal with Russia the last year.
No, they didn't. Russia's refusing the peace deal, shithead. They're bombing civilian infrastructure.
And who've said they're going to keep fighting no matter what.
Because Russia won't stop.
And Trump needs a way to get...
That ain't no, man, that Trump needs a way, baby.
...in NATO's face. And to point out to the American people that we're in a confrontation with NATO...
We're not in a confrontation with NATO. Everybody thinks he's a dipshit.
As a pretext to pull out.
That doesn't sound very manly, to quote George Carlin. I guess those pills you sell in your shop don't work then. I guess not, baby.
Not? Again.
He's got a gay frog in his throat.
You don't want a pretext. We're getting out of NATO because you're holding us hostage with war with Russia. We're getting out of NATO
over him not getting a Nobel participation trophy. Sorry, we're getting out of NATO because an independent body that has its headquarters in Norway didn't give him an award he has not deserved. That's why we would get out of NATO. You do realize this is dumber than the peace deal with Russia part.
Because they are the new Soviet Union.
NATO is the new Soviet Union. That's rich. That's because they're, I guess, join or die. Is that the idea?
No. It's
Sorry, Sweden isn't an applicant to NATO. They're in now. Norway's NATO. Yeah, it's interesting that all these countries are NATO because they're worried about Trump, or look at that, worried about Russia invading them, and rightly so.
Oh, you don't want us to have that. And now NATO sent paltry troops, France and Germany and England, a few hundred troops there. It's a joke. This is about Trump changing the subject away from...
Goddamn, reach further up your ass for this argument. This is fucking weak.
If he pulls support to the war with Russia, which he's already basically done, they go, oh, you're a Russian agent.
No, he's not a Russian agent. He doesn't have the skills to be a Russian agent. He's a Russian asshat. And that's how you pronounce asset in this situation.
But Trump does this, gets NATO to come out and attack him, put
NATO's not attacking.
troops in, say...
They're defending Denmark's territory so that he doesn't think he could send in troops. Like, it's just stupid. Like, there's no reasoning that he would have any ability whatsoever to send troops into fucking Greenland to seize it while people are there doing exercises or hanging out fucking eating whatever they serve in Greenland.
Now America's our enemy. Now...
We're not their enemy.
Trump can completely change the subject.
Away from the Epstein files? Good point. Oh, sorry, that's not where you're going.
To why are we supporting NATO? And NATO is saying...
God damn. So, sorry, your voice gets slightly clearer and more high-pitched when you're sick. So when you sound like you've been gargling crushed clamshells, that means you're healthy.
If you go in to Greenland, you have violated the article of NATO invading a NATO state, even though Greenland is not part of NATO. They're claiming via Denmark it is.
It is. It's Denmark's territory, so it does qualify.
So Trump, I can't believe they took the bait on this. And I knew this weeks ago. I didn't want to say it, but I think they figured it out now, so I'll say it. This is how amateur they are. They haven't even figured out that Trump is setting them up to kick us out of NATO.
It's fifth dimensional checkers.
I told you Trump would win.
And yet, he does nothing but lose every day.
Told you in 2020 they were going to steal it. People got really pissed.
They didn't steal it. People didn't get really pissed. They didn't steal it.
And I'm telling you what's going on with Greenland right now. I'm not...
Didn't you also tell us that Hillary Clinton was a lizard?
Reaching, into the sky at night and pulling down some magic, thing. This is massive research, geopolitical understanding that would take months to even explain, okay?
Yeah, don't even bother. I mean, we don't even have the capacity to understand. Your brain is so big, none of us could figure out this. You know what I mean? It's like trying to pick the corn out of Triceratops shit. I get it. And this is a big but.
Last night, Trump puts out this letter to NATO and to Denmark.
Because he's sundowning.
That on paper controls part of Greenland. And Greenland's a third the size of the United States.
No, not on paper. It's their territory. That's like saying the government of America is, because of the Constitution, is government of America on paper.
States. It's like 3 or 4 Texases.
Well, now I really don't want it.
3.5 Texases. A couple of Alaskas. It's
like 18 Arkansas. It's like 35 Rhode Islands.
Tens of trillions of oil and gas around it.
Really? Just tens of trillions of oil and gas? Just not in any particular shape? Is it already in barrels or?
But more importantly, it's right up by the North Pole.
That is very important. So they've got unfair access to Santa. They get gifts first on Christmas. Assholes.
To be able to put missiles on, because it would take 3 times longer to hit from the U.S., China, and others with nukes than he would there.
3 times longer. Yeah, instead of 8 minutes, it'd be 12 to 17 minutes from the United States.
We don't get it. They're going to move in.
No, they're not. With what? They can't even take Ukraine, you dumb motherfucker. China can't take Taiwan. They're going to take fucking Greenland. Eat shit.
We already have a deal since the 50s. We protected it during World War II and kicked the Nazis off of it. So we have, just like with
So that's why you're still mad. I understand. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Guantanamo Bay, you ask, how do we have this big base in Cuba? Well, since the Spanish-American War in 1898.
You got a little flicky finger there going on. Are you taking speed to deal with your cough? Is that what it is?
We have a treaty, and then that passed on to the...
Yeah, it looks like it. I'm just saying, I like, does Pervitin cause acid reflux?
Government of Cuba when they became independent.
And that's the first thing you're going to hear from me as soon as Cuba became independent, man. You got people like Carlos Santana playing our next hit, baby. Here he comes, live from Altamont.
And then once Fidel got in...
I look a little too much like Wolfman Jack right now. Come on, baby. I got a whole new career. I'm going to get on the radio and do me a show on serious rock and roll, baby.
The contract says both sides have to agree to get out. So we have the same contract for naval bases and Air Force bases, then Army Air Corps in Greenland.
Right. So we're there anyways. We've got an agreement with them. We don't have to take over the fucking thing. What he wants is the minerals and resources, and he wants to add land and have it called like the state of Trumpistan.
Denmark claimed, oh, you're free, like these royals always do. The British do it too. Oh, Australia, you're free. Oh, Canada, you're free. Though our inspector general, though our governor general can overturn your parliament when they want. So that's now being forced. Now Denmark's like, well, we have clauses where we can actually run you. And Trump's like...
They also supply them with all the same resources that the citizens of Denmark get, and a lot of that is including healthcare, which is something that would be removed if America took it over. So there's that.
We're funding 80% of NATO. We've done all this.
Because it costs us that much money to go that far. Everybody else's entire military is committed to NATO. They just have to expand to 5%. We have our military is whatever 9 times the rest of the world combined. Percent. Why don't you just tell us how little it actually is, stupid?
We've already been protecting Europe. This is horse crap. We are going to take control of this because China has been moving in with their businesses and their government. They put leftists in charge of the 45,000 population, the 2 towns they've got. And
both towns are completely overrun with CCP operatives. Basically, everybody up there is Chinese all of a sudden.
So we know those spies are there. We know that's happening.
Well, then NATO would help you get rid of those people, stupid.
We know they got Russian and Chinese ships and submarines all around it.
Yeah, that's true of New York Harbor.
And it's a strategic situation.
I agree. But then, so is making sure you have enough toilet paper.
So this isn't America going to grab Iraq to give the oil to China or something.
No, according to Trump, we should have kept it for ourselves.
No, this is the Panama Canal. It's Venezuela. It's green.
It's the technocracy of America.
Folks.
It's the Elon Musk maternal grandfather plan to own all of this land.
And everything that goes around controlling the Arctic Circle. So that's the...
Which sounds like a New World Order kind of a thing. Sounds like imperialism, actually, which is something I think Alex Jones used to pretend to give a fuck about.
Political reason.
All right.
But Trump isn't obsessed with the stupid Nobel Prize.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Did you see him get his little street sign? Yes, he is.
He's using that to beat the EU and NATO over the head.
Yeah, it's not going to work. Everybody just thinks he's fucking stupid. This is not a strategy that will work with the vast American public, much less the world, dipshit.
That have refused to do a peace deal with Russia the last year.
No, they haven't. Russia will not do a peace deal. Russia's side is, fuck you, we want it all. Rus come here, dummy.
And who've said they're going to keep fighting.
By the way, you want to talk about a Russian asshat, Alex?
No matter what. And then Trump needs a way to get in NATO's face.
No, he doesn't. He's always been in NATO's face.
And to point out to the American people that we're in a confrontation with NATO.
We're not in a confrontation with NATO.
as a pretext to pull out. Not, again, you don't want a pretext, we're getting out of NATO because you're holding us hostage with war in Russia. We're getting out of NATO.
Why not? If that's the real reason, and he's the fucking boss, and America first, and whatever the fuck, why not? If it's Europe's fault that Russia won't come to the table, and he's not capable of making that case, then I guess he's just stupid?
So,
and so why are we following him in the first place?
Because they are the new Soviet Union, the EU.
All right, so we're at this point.
No.
Yeah, so he does this weird thing where he loops the fucking thing. To Alex Jones and all of his secondary dipshit acolytes, try harder. Try much harder. Swing again. Get up. I believe in you. If you can come up with a dumbass argument like this, you can come up with one that's equally as stupid, but at least more entertaining. Please just tell us there's an underground lizard base there. Just go for that. It's more believable than Trump is playing fifth dimensional checkers and he doesn't really give a shit about the Nobel Peace Prize because he whinges about it all the fucking time. It's goofy. Speaking of goofy and being a Russian asshat, Tucker Carlson's very upset with us, you guys, because we're being meansies to Vladimir Putin. And us being meansies to Vladimir Putin is the same as George W. Bush and the dumb shit that he did. So if you don't like George W. Bush and the dumb shit that he did, you're the same as him if you're being meansies to Vladimir Putin.
How many times have Europeans tried to invade Russia? A few.
Jesus Christ. Just got their gumption up and decided to invade? You mean Germans, you dumb motherfucker? When did NATO ever try to invade Russia? When did the NATO countries, since the formation of NATO, try to invade Russia? Never. How many countries has Russia invaded since NATO was formed? At least 3, if you don't give a shit about African countries, which you clearly don't.
Napoleon tried. Why does everyone want to invade Russia? It's far away.
Nope. Nobody does.
It's freezing. No.
Well, China wants part of it because it was theirs.
No one ever succeeds in doing it. It's like
because they give up, just like Afghanistan. They're like, ugh, this sucks. I'm going home.
Afghanistan.
Right. There you go. Which is a dump. Afghanistan is not the graveyard of civilizations. Everybody who's been across that desert wasteland has eventually gone, fuck it, let's just go around. Isn't there a river we can take?
Or Yemen.
Hold on.
Not a long track record of victory.
Yeah, nobody wants Yemen, shithead. Half the Yemenis don't want Yemen.
Forces taking control. There are a few peoples around the world that are tough to beat, history suggests. And the Russians are at the top of that list. So why do...
No, they're not. They would have lost World War II if we hadn't done Lend-Lease with them. They relied on the United States as much as, if not more, than the English did.
People keep trying. Well, in a word, resources. That's why.
There's too much oil in circulation and we don't need their fucking minerals. They're not rare. They're all over the earth. What? What are we getting from Russia? What is it? Vodka? Underage prostitutes like Scott Ritter likes?
Russia is unimaginably large. Literally.
No, I can imagine it.
Unimaginably.
Yeah, but most people can't imagine how far Nevada is across if you had to walk it.
People in the West haven't imagined how large Russia is.
It's like Canada plus 15 feet.
Russia is larger than China and India put together.
Yeah, but it's 80% of the country's fucking permafrost most of the year.
You combine the landmass of China, so big you can barely get your head around it.
Where everybody can move and there's trains and roads and you could pretty much cross the entire country even during the worst parts of winter, even northern Mongolia to Xinjiang and back. You can go from Mongolia down to Hong Kong and back, but there are most of, like 60% of Russia, you can't even cross it most of the year.
And India, almost as big.
Okay, and again, there's lots of cities in fucking India. There's tons of cities in China. Russia has 3.
Big, and together, they're smaller than Russia.
In landmass, but not in worth, not in output. If they're that big, why is their economy smaller than Italy? For real. Hold on, I gotta check something. Sorry. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay. Russia's GDP, the whole country, is $2.2 to $2.5 trillion. Okay? So mark that up there. $2.2 to $2.5 trillion GDP in Russia. California's GDP is $4 trillion. Texas's GDP is $2.7 trillion. New York is 2.3. Florida has 1.3. It is one U.S. state, and Russia's GDP is only double that of one American state. All that landmass, and it's got the same GDP as Texas. And by the way, I think they're lying, so I don't even buy their numbers. So let's just say they're equal to New York City, or New York State, rather. Think about the landmass of New York State versus the landmass of Russia. The fuck difference does it make? It's like saying, like, an island, you're going to count, like, it's this tiny little, the Cyprus, or one of these areas where they have, like the Bank of Cyprus has all this money, the Cayman Islands, and you go, this tiny little sliver has all this money going through it, more than the Russian economy, clearly. But it's basically the same size if you count the ocean floor, because it's just as useful.
Siberia itself is about the size of the continental United States.
And it's almost completely uninhabitable. When's the last time you vacationed in Siberia? This motherfucker went to Russia and didn't leave Moscow.
Like 10 million people living there. In all of Russia, there are about 140 million?
Yeah. And all of it in the west part of the country.
Something like that. In all of Russia. Meanwhile, Russia has the deepest energy reserves in the world.
No. The U.S. with Alaska, and arguably the outlying area of Canada, if you check their northern coast, if they were able to mine in that area with a thaw, the same way the Russians hope to, with a thaw in their areas, Canada would have an equal amount. And Venezuela has, the biggest oil reserves after that.
Some of the highest uranium enrichment in the world.
So what? Enrichment. That does not mean uranium stores. It does not mean like uranium deposits. They have the most uranium enrichment because they are nuke crazy, you shithead.
It has, by some measures, the most gold in the world.
Because they steal it from Africa.
Silver.
Also, pretty rocks. And?
Bauxite for aluminum. Timber, by far the largest timber reserves in the world.
Reserves. Okay, this is where he's playing with it. First of all, no. South America, Africa, Canada, the United States, there's shit ton, like we need fucking particle board from Russia. Secondly, the reason you have the reserves is because they're unreachable, you dumb motherfucker. They're reserves because nobody wants to go out there and cut them down because they'll die in the process.
Which people still need, by the way.
No, we don't. We don't need Russian trees, you tit.
Pulp for paper, dimensional.
Yeah, where are we gonna get all of our printer paper if Russia's mean to us? Get the fuck out of here, paper. Shut the fuck up.
Lumber for building. People still need trees.
Yeah. Thanks, Canada. How many trees do you think we fucking need, you weirdo?
And Russia has more than any other place, primarily in Siberia, but not
primarily in Siberia. Yes, where it's too cold to cut them down, where you will die sawing through them. They're fir trees.
Just in Siberia. And of course, farmland.
Farmland. Shut the fuck up.
And agricultural products.
Nope. No. Ukraine has a bigger output. And by the way, he might be including the Ukrainian territory as Russia in this description. I'm fairly certain that's what he's doing.
Fertilizer. Wheat.
Fertilizer. Jesus Christ. We just got, there was this huge deposit found in Michigan that completely replaced what everybody was like, oh no, if we don't have a good relationship with Russia, where are we going to get all of our fertilizer from? And it's this, hold on. Let me, it's specific to this thing. And this was just, again, in necessity being the mother of invention. It's, I don't remember what it's called. Yeah, potash, potassium chloride. There's a massive deep underground deposit of potash, which is what we were getting from, see, I just remember all this shit. Who needs AI? Confirmation. Let's see. The primary fertilizer precursor found in Michigan is a massive deep underground deposit of potash, a vital potassium source for fertilizers located in north-central Lower Peninsula, with a major mining project underway near Evart to extract it for U.S. agriculture. Thanks, Joe Biden. Michigan also deals with issues related to other fertilizer components, such as excess phosphorus runoff from agricultural overuse causing water color. Oh, that's a different aspect of their leftovers. It doesn't know what I was asking about, just the potash part. It's a naturally occurring mineral salt rich in potassium, essential for plant growth. The Michigan Potash and Salt Company is developing a solution mining project near Evart to extract potash and salt. We have fucking plenty. Like, does this motherfucker look anything up besides, the conversion rate for rubles to cash, U.S. currency?
Russia has as much or more than anyone and very few people. So
so we should invade, is what you're saying. If you're using Trump logic, I don't understand why we're fucking around with Venezuela to take their oil. Why don't we just invade Russia? Maybe you're right. Maybe Tucker Carlson's right. We should invade Russia and take their shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Promise of access to Russian resources.
Yawn.
And space. And
all you got to do is let them rape about 100,000 women a year. That's all. And enslave people from Dagestan and Kazakhstan and Mongolia and North Korea. Isn't it worth it for a little extra fertilizer that you could mine it in your own country and give people good wages and good benefits and that kind of stuff? Why do that when you can just buy it from them after they extract it using slave labor?
Land.
I got to tell you, this is the biggest used car salesman bullshit PR stunt on behalf of Russia. He's done a couple of these monologues lately, and it's really odd.
Has been a siren that has called invaders for centuries. And
no, it hasn't. They're the ones who've been doing the invading. Especially in the last century.
No judgment, by the way. You can see why. If Greenland is a
what the fuck by the way, Genghis Khan, the Muscovites signed a deal basically with Genghis Khan, just for the Mongols to just take everybody south of them, including their own people.
What is Russia? The biggest prize of all. And you saw this attitude on display the moment the wall fell.
What? No. We weren't celebrating access to their shit, stupid. We were celebrating that people thought it was the end of the Cold War, that we would actually be friends, that they would act like fucking Europeans and not start salami slicing their way through multiple countries and murdering people.
And
what? Seriously, what does this motherfucker think we were celebrating when the wall came down? Couldn't have been freedom. What kind of gay? What are you talking about? Who lives like this?
Rapacious foreigners, mostly bankers, moved into Russia and stripped it.
Aw.
And they were helped along by a lot of unscrupulous indigenous Russians. It wasn't just outsiders who did it. Some Russian oligarchs did it to their own people, but
and continue to, including Vladimir Putin, who is arguably the richest man in the world, even though his salary is $140,000 a year.
Fact is, a small group of people denuded the country, looted it.
Well, then why is there anything left? If they looted it, maybe all the trees are gone.
And unfortunately, this always plays out in exactly the same way. It's not enough to loot. You have to take everything and drive everyone else into despair, hopelessness, and poverty. And that's exactly what happened.
Sorry. Russia, the entire country's in despair and poverty right now. You were just over there telling us how everything works great there and is cleaner than any place you've ever seen in your life. You were basically playing like a Chinese like suck up white monkey vlogger over there for Putin and his buddies. But now you're telling us it's a dump? Tell us something we don't know.
Russia 30 years ago, 35 years ago, was certainly the poorest country west of, I don't know.
Right. I mean, the world's round, so at a certain point, you just keep going around in a circle, and then what's west anymore?
Who even knows? I mean,
I don't know. It's your fucking analogy, dipshit. West of what? Why is that? You mean China? North Korea? The other countries that it has agreements with and shares a political philosophy with?
Really poor. And divided and sad and defeated, and alcoholism and drug use and gasoline huffing and suicide were endemic.
And then Vladimir Putin came and he turned it all around.
And who did that? Well, the Russians to some extent did it to themselves.
And it is our responsibility as their white European saviors to protect them from themselves by opening up AA branches all over the...
They were living in this Soviet system for 70 years. But
yes, which we forced upon them through our ceaseless invading from time immemorial.
Outsiders did it to them too. That's a fact. And whatever you think of Putin, he's bad.
Yes, he is.
Putin got that under control.
No, he didn't. He set up an oligarch system that was worse than the one before it, and he's run it like the czars under the pretense of fake democracy by just switching positions from president to prime minister back and forth with puppets in the other seat and run it since he got to power.
And Russia in 2026 bears no resemblance whatsoever to Russia in 2000, the year Putin took over. And one of the main changes he made
was to kill 1 million of his citizens in a fruitless war against a smaller country that's kicking his ass.
Is he kicked the money changers out of the temple? He did.
No, he didn't. He seized their money for himself.
Sorry.
Yes, he's basically Jesus. You're right. Putin is basically Jesus.
This has forgotten that, ignores it. He kicked the oligarchs out, or he brought them to his side. You can't act independent.
Sorry. He kicked them out or what?
The money changers out of the temple. He did.
Just like Jesus.
Sorry. Everyone else has forgotten that, ignores it. He kicked the oligarchs out, or he brought them to his side.
What? He didn't kick them out. He kicked them out a window and took their shit. And then the other ones were too afraid to go against him, lest they too get kicked out a fucking window.
Can't act independently of the national interest. Sure, you can become a billionaire, but some of it has to go to the country.
And by the country, he means him.
And that was spun in the West as
the reality.
Cartel behavior. He's the mafia boss. Okay, fine. He's the mafia boss.
That's fine. I mean, what's bad about being a cartel boss? I mean, ultimately, if you kill your rivals and murder people and set up an an authoritarian government and you kill protesters and you invade other countries because you wanted it. Anyways.
But the real answer to the question, did it work or not, is obvious not just in the numbers, but
the numbers of dead in the Ukraine war,
in the state of the country, the visible state of the country now versus
which is still a dump.
25 years ago. It's a completely different place.
Okay, so now he's back to Moscow. So fucking sweet, bro. You got to go. Party like a Russian.
It's no longer Bhutan. It's not Africa.
Well, first of all, there are a lot more Africans fighting in this war for Russia that were suckered into this, given a fucking wooden gun, like a piece of plywood cut out to look like an AK-47 with a anti-tank mine strapped to their fucking chest and sent into war. No kidding. So it's a lot more like Bhutan than it's ever been.
By some measures, it's much richer than any country in Western Europe. In fact, by every measure, it is.
Except in, freedom and safety and not being a pariah to its neighbors and invention, manufacturing, economics. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, they got a bunch of fucking trees.
By every single measure. Is it
no
richer than Spain? Is it richer than the UK? Oh, yeah, much.
Based on what? Untapped tree resources? Get the fuck out of here.
So that is...
hold on. That's just... I gotta stop there for a second. That's just so fucking goofy. Like, no, it's not. It's got the same GDP as Texas, and they made it up. It's bullshit. They're that big. They're unimaginably large with all these resources. And Texas, we don't even count the areas in Texas that are native land. The reservations, which are sovereign land. They're actually not American territory, which is a big chunk of fucking Texas. So Texas, as much as you see the shape of the state on the map, it looks like Swiss cheese if you count all the areas where that land does not belong to us. If you shrink it down, it's even, it's probably maybe a fifth smaller, a sixth smaller than it actually looks on the map because of that territory taken out. And yet it has an equal GDP to Russia with this immense wealth and this immensity of the immenseness of the immensity of everything.
Both tempting.
This is just fucking weird.
To elites from around the world. Wait a second. Why do 140 million Russians get all this stuff? We should have some too. But it...
No. We don't want any of their shit. What are you talking about? This has never been about invading Russia. That's their problem. Their biggest problem, Russia's biggest problem is they don't have anything anybody wants except oil, and now we don't even need it anymore. Thanks to the shale revolution and the fact that we are moving towards electric cars, especially China, which was supposed to run off with all, as soon as they were printing millionaires for a while, and all those people are going to want gas-guzzling cars, so they started pumping all this oil in the Middle East, and then, oh shit, China's economy and their population isn't nearly as big as we thought, and here we are stuck with 3.5 million barrels a day more oil than we need right fucking now, with another 6 million a day that could come online at any time, which would drive the price down to $20 a barrel, which would make it a useless commodity for Russia. They need the price higher. This is so fucking diluted. It's odd.
Is also an indictment of their leadership. If you're Boris Johnson and your ancestors ruled the waves, ruled the British Empire.
Sorry, the czars didn't control most of Central Asia? Sorry, you think England's unique in its imperial... Hey, real quick, did they speak English as the primary language throughout all of South America? How about Africa? Is English the first language of a lot of the African nations, or is it French? You think all the Central Asian countries speak Russian because they wanna?
Your country is a kind of sad Urdu-speaking museum now. That's insulting. Really, the Russians? Those weird half-Slavic... I mean, they dominate world chess, but, like, really? They're not...
They used to. They don't anymore.
Really white and...
What? They're not really white. Sorry. So the Russians are victims of anti-white, of white bigotry at this point. So I guess Robin DiAngelo's got to write a book about white fragility. She's got to add a chapter for Russians now. Fuck me.
How are they doing so well? This is outrageous.
They're not doing well.
It is an indictment of your own leadership. And in countries across Europe, the leaders feel that way. Russia is an embarrassment to them.
What the fuck? Sorry, we're jealous now? We're racist against them because they're not quite white. And we're also jealous because Moscow looks like a fucking like Persian disco most of the time.
Because it is, relatively speaking, thriving.
Relatively speaking. No, it's not. Jesus Christ, man. Go someplace besides, go to Kursk.
And so they all, as one.
All right. He's got to be reading this, right? This is so insane. Like, dial it down like 30%, because this is lunacy. Nobody buys this. Solovyov doesn't buy this. Simonyan doesn't buy this. Fucking Putin thinks this is funny.
Back to the Biden administration's plan to have a war with Russia. And let's stop lying. This was not an unprovoked invasion.
Yes, it was.
Putin just randomly went over the line into eastern Ukraine and...
No, it wasn't random. He strategically wanted the resources of that country. You know that whole thing about being jealous and wanting the resources of another country? That's why he did it.
Stole these oblasts. He stole this land that belonged to another people. That's a total lie. And it's not a defense of Putin to call it out as a lie, because it is.
Yes, it is. It's a lie, and it is a defense of Putin. It is that's the only reason to even think this. They were a sovereign country. They have been since the Soviet Union broke up. Russia has taken all or part of other countries in this process of trying to reclaim territories it lost during that when the country broke up. Instead of signing deals with these other countries, like every other imperial structure once it fell, these fuckers tried to re-seize it.
And everybody knows it now.
No, they don't. You're fucking nuts. Jesus Christ.
The truth is that in 2001, Putin, same guy, same leader, asked the Bush administration in person, directly to George W. Bush, I would like to join NATO. I would like to join the defensive alliance that exists to keep me from moving west into Western Europe. In other words, you won. I'm joining your team.
No. In other words, I know I'm a former KGB spy and I've only been on the scene for about a year, and you've overheard me multiple times because of the spies you've set up in my cabinet that I'm going to weasel my way in and undermine Europe so that we can re-seize land that we lost and recreate the Ruskamir. But I'm your buddy now. I'm buddy. I'm here. We're all good. We're all good, buddy. Like, this is it. Like, for fuck's sake. Maybe this is a broken clock moment for George W. Bush. Or as I like to call him, George W. Bush. Or W.C. Bush. But maybe it was just a moment where he actually made a smart decision. Went, I don't know. I looked into his soul and I was like, oh, fuck, this guy hasn't got one.
And due in part to his own limitations as a leader, and due in part to the counsel that he received from Condoleezza Rice at the time, George W. Bush turned down that offer.
It's not he can't do it. He can't unilaterally put Russia in NATO, and the rest of the countries wouldn't allow it. And by 2001, they were already invading Chechnya and Georgia. It ended up being next. They had plans to invade Ukraine. They were clear about it. They were sock puppeting Belarus already. They had border disputes. It would have made it impossible for them to join. It's the same problem Ukraine had.
And
this is just fucking like. I mean, I understand. You got to be paid for this kind of hard sell, because this is fucking embarrassing. Like, this is so obviously bullshit. This has got to be a tape he's just making to send so Russia can go, here's what our good friend Tucker said on this show, so they can play a clip of this on 60 Minutes over there. That's what this has got to be for.
Prevented Russia from joining NATO.
he can't unilaterally prevent him. And also, why didn't Russia come to NATO as a whole? Why would he think George Bush has the ability to get him into NATO automatically, unilaterally anyway? It's just dumb.
And the guest we're going to speak to in a moment, if you're wondering if he has a good track record of calling future events, said at the time, this decision to turn down Vladimir Putin's, this is 25 years ago, Vladimir Putin's request to join NATO, to join the West, to all be in it together, to work together. This decision made by the Bush administration guarantees a collision with the West. We are now
Why?
On a collision course.
Why? Why? If NATO is a defensive organization and you're not planning on attacking, differences make. Let them spend their fucking money. Get to business.
Of course, he was absolutely right.
Well, he was absolutely right that Russia attacked Chechnya and Georgia and then Ukraine. Anybody that wasn't in NATO that bordered them.
Because NATO didn't want Russia because NATO wanted a war with Russia. And boy,
no, they don't.
They got it.
They did not get it. We don't have a war between NATO and Russia right now. We do not.
And so from 2001 all the way to 2022, 21 years, NATO moved inexorably east.
It didn't move. Other countries recognizing the threat of Russia asked to join NATO because Russia was invading countries on its border and attacking countries in Africa just for the gold and shits and giggles.
Surrounding. This is not.
That was weird. That audio drop was theirs, not mine.
Inexorably east, surrounding Russia. And many times, again, this is not a defense of Russia. It's just a fact.
Yes, it is.
Fact. Many times the Russian government under Putin said, whoa, 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 whoa. You are threatening our core national interest, which is not to have other people's missiles on our borders. Back off.
Yeah, but you had missiles on their border. Also, what anti-ballistic missile systems on your border to protect from a nuclear launch from Russia, especially as they increasingly invaded other countries and pressed this whole Ruskamir thing, is a legit response. What he wanted was to expand himself through the CSTO, attack other countries, use mutual assured destruction as an umbrella under which he could attack anybody and threaten them with nukes if they tried to stop him. And then anybody who wanted to join NATO so that they would be protected using Article 5, he wanted to undermine that. He wanted to make sure that they didn't join so that he didn't want Ukraine not to join NATO because he was worried about missiles on his doorstep, or he'd have flipped out about Finland. He didn't give a shit. Finland's got a bigger border with them than Ukraine does. He flipped out because he's planning on invading those countries, and he didn't want those countries to have everybody else protecting them if that invasion occurred.
And then in 2014, the Obama administration overthrew the government of Ukraine.
Bullshit.
To put an American puppet in there.
Bullshit.
Thereby.
No, okay. First of all, Yanukovych was a Russian sock puppet. He worked with Paul Manafort, who they shot people on Euromaidan. The Ukrainians had independence. There was no reason for anything else. There was no reason for Russia to invade, except that Russia intended on taking the country over. Once it lost the political ability to do so from inside through their sock puppet, they decided to do it tactically, materially. They already had Ukraine in their estimation as long as Yanukovych was in. Also, if we put in a puppet, how come he's not still there? How come they had other elections?
By sealing the fate of nations. When that happened, and Sergei Karganov said it at the time, you have just guaranteed a war in Ukraine that will destroy Ukraine. So as you listen to the interview.
Because Russia wants that ground. Russia will not allow Ukraine to be independent. Not because the Ukrainians are planning on attacking Russia, but because Russia's planning on attacking Ukraine. And if you take away our puppet leader, we have to take it by force. That was entirely the point. Where the fuck is Yanukovych right now? Did he flee to the West? Is he living in Berlin? Is he living in London? Is he living, the former Ukrainian leader in exile who was working for the best of the Ukrainian people? He's in Russia. He escaped to Russia under the cover of night because they put an arrest warrant out for him. And then they went on to have other elections. Yanukovych, just like Assad, is a Russian puppet.
And we hope you listen carefully because the English is not flawless, and it was done
Well, I've watched your show. It never is.
over satellite from Moscow, so it's not the best audio, but it's worth listening.
I'm sorry. I thought they were way ahead of us on all measures. It's not the best audio?
That man that you're going to hear has a long track record
Of living in Moscow and working for Vladimir Putin and selling the line that the Russians want to sell about their territorial rights to Ukraine and that the people, if they try to be independent, have to die.
calling events right. And it's not to detract from his powers of perception or his intellect, which is formidable, to say other people could have drawn the same conclusions because it's pretty freaking obvious.
Yes, that Vladimir Putin believes in the concept of Ruski Mir, that the world is Russian, just doesn't know it yet. And it's the one thing he has in common with the Iranian Ayatollah, for example. And they would just split the territories each of them can stand. He gets Europe. They get all of the Middle East. That's the goal. China gets all of Asia. That's their tripolar power structure. And the rest of us, by the way, if we try to stop it or we don't give way to it, which is the key, if we don't give way to it, then we have to die in the process because we're just interfering with it. This is just the way things have to be.
If you exclude Russia from NATO, you're probably seeking a war with Russia.
No, it's a defensive organization against Russia. Why would you let them in? Because they would have a say in it like they have in the UN. And when they're dealing like the Russians on the Human Rights Council, they're actively using slaves to fight their war right now. So the idea that the Russians get a seat at the table in the Human Rights Council is fucking stupid.
And if you try to put nuclear armed missiles on Russia's border, you're probably going to get a military response.
Right. That wasn't the plan, though. The anti-ballistic missiles are not nukes themselves.
It's exactly what he said.
Well, also, in this day and age, it doesn't matter if they're right next door. As a matter of fact, it's better if they're farther away. Let me explain this to you. You got an arc where hitting something as it's in its arc over here is harder than hitting a barrage of areas close to your border where you strike them before you do your long-range strikes. If the missiles are right here, they're easier to hit from a tactical standpoint than if they were on a fucking submarine. But if you put missiles in Finland and in Ukraine and in other parts of Europe, where if Russia launches nukes against any of its neighbors or, God forbid, the U.S. or Canada or something like that, you can knock them out of the sky. You have 3 fail-safes, close range, mid-range, and long range, to knock them out of the sky before they strike their target. That's what Russia objects to.
And of course, he was laughed at.
Because without the threat of nuclear missiles, why would we let them fuck with everybody? Why would we let them attack Chechnya? Why would we let them attack Georgia? Why would we let them attack Ukraine and tap dance around that shit if we weren't worried about a nuclear exchange like this dipshit is always selling as a natural... That's going to happen. We're going to destroy the whole world. I mean, the fucking thumbnail of this video is nuclear holocaust.
Europe, where he'd spent a lot of his life.
Jesus. Yeah, because he's a Putinite.
And he was totally ignored by the United States. And our policymakers were on to this, that, or the other thing. They were not paying any attention at all. And to the extent they were...
Because we didn't intend to attack Russia, you dumb motherfucker. If we intended to attack Russia, we'd have been laser focused on that dump.
They were very excited for this war with Russia. And they never really explained why.
Because we aren't. We aren't. Nobody is interested in it. The problem Russia has is that nobody gives a fuck. Once we don't need their oil, or they don't have control of European countries' economies via that oil trade, nobody needs to ever listen to Russia about anything ever again. That's what's going on. The only thing that Russia adds to the world is the threat of nuclear annihilation. Even their fucking oil sales are at the barrel of a gun.
And then once that war began 4 years ago, they began to act.
It didn't begin 4 years ago. It began in like 10 minutes after they signed the 1997 NATO-Russia founding agreement because they were lying. They were planning this all along. And it really started in 2014 when the Ukrainians decided they didn't want a Russian sock puppet running their fucking country and they wanted to be truly independent. They wanted to join Europe. They wanted to join NATO. They wanted to be a part of that. And if Russia wanted to join, what difference does it make if Ukraine joins? Okay, we'll join next.
Through their proxy, the Ukrainian government under Zelensky, truly a proxy.
Nope.
In a war that has been managed from day one, in part by the CIA, our CIA.
No, not managed by the war. We've been helping them with intelligence. That's not managing it. They're managing quite fine. Thank you very much. We've just been helping them defend themselves because they are fighting a much larger force for no fucking reason other than Russia wants the resources in that country. They want the farmland, they want the minerals, and they want the natural gas deposits, and they want the through line to Russia for their gas pipelines and stuff without having to pay transit fees. The same reason they salami slice their way into Georgia, just far enough so that the oil pipeline that goes from whatever Kazakhstan into Europe passes through that area that Russia has seized, so they have to pay basically protection money to Russia for that land, which isn't theirs. Killing a bunch of fucking goat herders so that they can claim 50 yards past an oil pipeline, so that the oil that passes through there is technically on Russian land, and therefore, you know, everybody has to pay for that going back and forth to guarantee themselves a slice of oil that isn't even theirs, and a pipeline they didn't even fucking build going to a client state that isn't theirs.
Targeting by the CIA, and anyone tells you that's not true is lying. They begin
also saying that the CIA of the United States is helping, like there's no mystery that we've been giving them intelligence. So saying that the CIA is part of that is sort of ridiculous. They are using satellite imagery that our country has access to through the military. How they're supplying it would be the Central Intelligence Agency or the DOD. Since we are not engaged in a war, that would be the conduit by which we get it to them. It's not a fucking secret. The CIA is our organization. When it's run right, it has value for the American people. The idea that this, like, everything the CIA does is just this thing to undermine America and foil Russia because they've got a grudge from 1987, you're mixing them up with Donald Trump.
To act with not just recklessness, but extreme recklessness. The kind.
Oh, it's much worse. Not cross out recklessness and put extreme recklessness.
Behavior that suggests you don't care about the consequences at all.
If we didn't care about the consequences at all, we just let the Russians rape the women and children of Bucha. We just let them kill everybody in that country. That's what Trump wants.
You're just all in. Actually, at some point, the kind of behavior that suggests a death wish.
Again, this is just like threat language from Russia. This is exactly what's like the people on 60 Minutes say. And this is basically notes from Russia read out loud in English because they don't translate. This is also, by the way, a guy who says that Israel calls the shots for America because he can relate in that Russia calls the shots for his show.
It's like, I actually want a nuclear holocaust.
No, we don't. Nobody does. And why the fuck would that trigger it? Why would that be an automatic thing? Because Russia gets scared? Because it's worried that we'll strike first? For what? Trees? Get the fuck out of here.
I'm happy to risk the lives of my family, my nation, and the world in a nuclear exchange.
Also, you're happy to let Russia rape and murder its way across Europe and Central Asia for fear of that because that's the talking point they fucking gave you.
And we know that because of what they did. They blew up Nord Stream.
No, they didn't. Also, it was a defunct pipeline at that point. The Germans weren't going to use it anymore. The contract had already been shut down. It was not insurable. They were getting sources for their gas from Norway and the United States. Now they're getting it from Norway, the United States, and Qatar. They don't need it.
Which was the main source of natural gas for Europe. So
and it's funny that suddenly it's winter, and is Europe dark? Is everyone freezing to death in Europe for lack of the Nord Stream?
That did two things. One, it destroyed the European economy.
No, it didn't.
That was obviously going to happen.
No, it isn't. As a matter of fact, I guess in theory you could say that they bought more natural gas from us for a short time. And the price differential is what?
And it did.
No, it didn't. Not even close. It fucked up Russia's.
Because you can't have a robust economy, certainly not a manufacturing economy, without cheap energy.
Yeah, but it's not the same energy. You're not using natural gas for your manufacturing plants.
Without cheap energy, you're left with what? Real estate and finance. And of course, the people making these decisions are
because Europe doesn't have any fucking trees.
familiar only with real estate and finance because that's the world they live in. But
sorry, the only material goods in Europe come from Russia, from these permafrost areas. This is fucking goofy. This gets stranger by the second.
In the real world, countries become rich and powerful and stable and resilient because they make things.
Right. What does Russia make besides trouble for its neighbors? Is that a Russian mic? Is that a Russian mic arm? Is that a Russian bookshelf? Is that a Russian frame on that picture? Is that a Russian TV? What in your fucking office besides the blood that courses through your veins was paid for by Russia or made in Russia? I'm dead serious. What is it that Russia provides? Where's the Russian car? Bigger than all these guys. Fuck Germany, right? But Germany's still producing cars. BMWs and Mercedes are still rolling off the lines everywhere, right? Still doing it. Still manufacturing them. Still own the rights to them. Even when they have plants in other countries, they get a cut. What's the Russian thing? Do you have a Russian blender? Do you have a Russian phone? What Russian invention? Is there a Russian AI you use? That's probably a dumb question. Probably does. I'm dead serious. Hold on. What? Vodka? Is that it? Wheat and cereal, which comes from Ukraine. Fish and seafood. Mostly for Eastern European markets. Just local shit. Mexico provides more fish and seafood to us than Russia does to Europe. Animal and vegetable fats and oils. Wood products and paper goods used in furniture, construction, and paper. It's an intermediate but often consumer-facing good. Let's see. 65% of all total exports from Russia are energy and raw materials. Food products make up the other 20%. Let's see. I'm trying to find what major electronics. Let's see. What major electronic consumer goods are let's see, come from Russia that are on par with the U.S., Asia, and or Europe? Just curious. Let's talk about inventing stuff. We do live in an information age, after all. TechSet? Anybody got a TechSet smartphone? Basic feature phones. Octava, which is audio electronics. They do microphones and headphones. DNS retail chain and manufacturer. Laptops, desktops, tablets, smartphones, accessories. Understanding export. They're assembled domestically, though not globally dominant. Russia's electronics manufacturer using PCBs, integrated circuits, semiconductors, and related components, mostly for industrial, telecom, and defense uses, not consumer giants. Let's see. Why Russian consumer electronics aren't on par with U.S., Asia, Europe. This is why they're not on par with... Why Russian computer electronics aren't on par with the U.S., Asia, Europe. 1, market structure and imports. Consumer electronics demand in Russia is high, but much of it is imported. Phones, laptops, TVs from Asia, Europe. Global competition. Companies in the U.S., South Korea, China, Japan, Europe dominate global production. Massive scale, R&D, and export networks. But they're amazing, aren't they, Tucker? Sanctions and supply chains. Exporting advanced electronics, especially chips and processors, is hampered by licensing and geopolitical barriers, even if they have them, which they don't. Export profile of Russia. Electronics make up a small portion of Russia's total export value compared to energy, metals, and agriculture, with electronic machinery even declining as an export category. The entire category of electronic machinery is declining. Let's see. They have no globally competitive electronics at all. None. And I don't know anybody who would fucking use one if they were. There's some fairly cool looking Chinese devices. I'm not going to use them either for the exact same fucking reason.
So that's the first thing.
No. Say that again, though. Listen to this shit.
But in the real world...
countries
become rich and powerful and stable and resilient because they make things.
Yeah, that's right. And Russia makes nothing. It makes nothing. It digs shit up out of the ground and sells it. You think it makes those trees, you dumb motherfucker? You think it makes the oil? You even think it makes the gold and the silver? It digs shit up and sells it. It doesn't make dick. It's a fucking, its economy is stuck in 1910. It's a resource capitalist venture. That's it. That's what the oligarchy is all about. That's resource capitalism. When you talk about the word capitalism, what it really, really means, that's what they're talking about. People who are, I own this land and underneath it is the gold, oil, whatever the fuck you want. And I'm not going to make anything with it. But if you want to make something with it, you got to come to me first. You do all the inventing. You do all the risk. You actually make some of this shit. But if I just happen to be born sitting on this shit, you got to come to me. That's resource capitalism. That is all Russia has. And the fact that he just buried his own fucking stupid argument with one sentence.
Real estate and finance, because that's the world they live in. But in the real world, countries become rich and powerful and stable and resilient because they make things.
Right. They make food products that are specific to them, like wine and cheese and pasta and artwork even that from France and Italy. They make cars and industrial goods. They make robots and the Czech Republic makes light sport aircraft. That's what I studied to get my pilot's license in a Czech light sport. They make shit. Russia doesn't make anything. This is so fucking weird. Someone please send this video to Tucker Carlson. I need to talk across the table to this dipshit. This is so odd. I mean, there is no excuse for this other than being paid. I mean, we know he flew over there and all expense paid and they made, he was only allowed to go where his handlers took him and shit. It just reeked of a controlled trip to China. But I don't think this motherfucker would have looked around if he had the chance. He knows what alleys not to walk down because he'd have to report what he sees. So, that whole series in Russia should have been called plausible deniability, however you say that in fucking Russian.
So that's the first thing. We blew up Nord Stream so that...
Okay, Nord Stream isn't a thing. It's a delivery system for something you dug up. It's not even the shit you use it in.
Destroys our supposedly closest allies in Europe, particularly in Germany.
Nope. Germany has not been destroyed. Surprise, fucking surprise. They found other sources for natural gas. It was just the cheapest. This is the same shit they talk about where China makes most of our Tylenol and shit like that. First of all, apparently, according to Trump, we're not even supposed to take Tylenol anyways.
Not good.
So the fact that it's made in China might be something. Maybe they've been slipping something into the Tylenol all these years to make us all autistic. Maybe that was the thing that they discovered, but they don't want to tell you because Trump's friends with Xi Jinping. Woo, woo, whatever the fuck. in this circumstance, they were able to move. Like, the reason we get most of our acetaminophen from China is not because it's the only place that makes it. It's because they make a lot of it and they make it very cheap. India does too. And as soon as we stopped buying it from China, we started buying it from India. Because they got a lot of fucking people who consume a lot of acetaminophen. So once you start making that shit, you just keep making it and sell the excess. You know where we do that too? In the red states with fucking ammunition. The military contracts out to ammunition companies and they make an extra amount all the time to keep the amount of ammo available to citizens cheaper than normal. We heard Glenn Beck bitching about how the price of ammo was going to go up because the Biden administration said we're not going to, government contracted ammo suppliers are not going to sell the excess anymore. They're going to give it to us because we need it. If we're buying it and you make more, we'll get first dibs at that pile. Because the whole purpose is taxpayer dollars to keep our military ready. But rednecks wanted socialized fucking ammo.
Germans hate themselves so much they won't even admit that we did it, but we did it through proxies. But
all right, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. We didn't blow up it through proxies at all. Russia blew up its own fucking pipeline. It's got more cameras on it than any pipeline in history, and they managed not to get video of any of the explosives being laid. You know why? Because there was a fucking pig inside of it. Not a living pig, but a pipe, like, inspecting piece of gear or whatever it was. They ran the bomb into the pipe and blew it up. That's why the hole goes out. That's why there's no film of the people planning the bomb.
Did it.
Russia blew up their own shit.
As we said we would. And the second...
No, we didn't. Stopping it and blowing it up are two different things.
The thing that it did is send a very clear message to Russia. We're done.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that that message was sent well before the fucking pipeline.
We're not going to have a kind of Vietnam scenario where we have a proxy war, but, there are limits to our behavior. Yeah, we'll spray Agent Orange, but we're not actually going to, level Hanoi.
Sorry, so blowing up the pipeline was the equivalent of spraying Agent Orange on Russia.
We bomb it on the edges, but we're, there are limits to what we're going to do because we don't actually want to war with the Soviets.
They're not Soviets anymore. Unless he's still counting the Hanoi part and he's just using the language.
American and NATO behavior since the beginning of this war suggests there are no limits at all.
Russia's behavior when they started this war suggests there are no limits on it. So this is a response.
Blowing up Russian infrastructure.
After they blew up Ukrainian infrastructure for years.
Trying to assassinate Putin repeatedly. They
lie
about it, but
No. All right. That didn't happen. The bombing of his house when he wasn't even fucking there.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. The Ukrainian government has tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin multiple times.
Why? Were you there watching it? Based on what? Based on what? What Russia says? We're just taking them at their word. That's how this works now. So our own allies, our country, our government, and all that kind of stuff requires, more scrutiny than a prosecutor's, cross-examination. But Russia, we're going to take it at its word. They told me while I was over there. They showed me shell casings or drone bits or some shit.
Has the CIA assisted with the targeting of those drones?
No, or he'd be dead, I guess.
Yes, obviously.
Obviously. Based on what? What's the obvious part? Why? Why would they need that? What would be the assistance with the targeting? The awareness that he's in a particular place? There are commercial satellites that could tell you that.
Tell me how you didn't.
What does that mean? Tell me how you didn't help him. No. The burden is yours. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Knock yourself out, dipshit. This is, by the way, this is fucking way crazier than I thought it would be. Like, this is even further down the, up Putin's butthole than I think any of us expected. Like, this is a hard fucking sell. And this is the second big monologue like this we've seen from Tuckums in the last month. The check must have cleared.
And again, it's not taking sides.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You are siding with Russia over the West. You think the West is bullying Russia to the point where Russia would have no choice but to nuke the rest of the world, and that they would be justified in doing so, and it would be our fault for wearing that short skirt and walking around at night in that part of town.
Against the United States with Russia? No.
Yes, that is exactly what you're doing. This is Russia first. Tucker Carlson, Russia first.
Trying to think clearly about what are the potential consequences of this kind of behavior. Torquing it up.
I think he said torquing it up, not twerking it up. That's what he does when he's over there sitting on Putin's lap.
Over 4 years, to a point where you've cornered a great power.
They're not a great power. They were the illusion of a great power. They have nukes. That's why you think they're a great power. They're about as much of a great power as fucking Pakistan. But interestingly enough, they're more insane.
Oh, but that's the problem. They don't consider Russia a great power.
No, we don't. At all. They contribute nothing. They dig shit up out of the ground and they sell it. If it wasn't under their feet, they would have died of starvation a long time ago. If there wasn't oil under Russia's feet and gas and minerals or whatever, they'd be on world food stamps. We'd be treating them like an African nation right now. Little kids would be told to finish their broccoli. There are kids starving in Russia.
When we started this company...
What a dipshit. Oh my God. I think he said twerking too. I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. Someone please send this video via Shitter or one of these other sites that he's on to this dipshit. Because I would be glad to confront him about all of these details. It is pathetic. It is cheerleading Vladimir Putin, pure and simple. And everything, you know, in the same way that everything Trump does must be seen through the lens of distraction from the Epstein files. Everything that Tucker Carlson is doing these days is an attempt to build up his bona fides with a very feral group of maggots in one particular area, and then turning them loose on the Russia first beat. That's how you do a wind up when you're trying to like dismantle a country from the inside. When you're doing these kind of asymmetrical warfare things, you co-opt a dipshit like Tucker Carlson. You pay him to be your voice box, and then you go, "Hey man, go out there and start plate spinning about conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. You know, be on Candace Owens' side one week and then against her the next week or whatever. Just drive the energy up to a fever pitch. And then right when you got them kind of like, in this heightened energy space where they're, ready to snap, deliver this poor Russia message. And we'll give you the notes. We'll give you the outline of what you're supposed to say. Now, when we give you these notes, real quick, they're going to be insane. Nobody's going to believe them except for your most fervent dipshit followers who actually believe you were attacked by an alien or a demon rather that gave you all the same scratches you would get being butt fucked by a trucker in a truck stop bathroom. Only those people will believe this, but that'll be enough. It'll wind them up and send them out on shitter to defend us. And so you'll help us create an asymmetrical defense army just through this wind up and, it's like one of those pull cars. Like he just zzz like that, and then you set it off in our direction. Man. And I would call, I'll call out any of these dickheads. None of them are, my phone's not ringing with requests to be debated by me on any of these issues. Wonder why. They'll bring on all these like namby-pamby half-ass arguers, but nobody that will push back on their shit or knows what they're talking about. They are selectively choosing. It's like, remember, I think it was in Rocky 3 where Mickey was supposedly picking, pugs and losers to fight Rocky. they were good fighters, but they weren't killers like this guy. You know, nobody who could take the title. That's what all of Tucker Carlson's guests are. They're either there to fillet his ridiculous argument and allow him to go, of course, or drive up some ridiculous spun conspiratorial theory that he has that make him the dweeb Alex Jones, or to never push back against him. So anyways, hit the super chat, support the show, thumbs up and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave you guys. Tomorrow, I do not have a show because I have the Ultimate Jam night tomorrow night at the Whiskey. One of the songs I will be doing is Spinal Tap song in tribute to Rob Reiner. And we love and miss him and his wife, Michelle. And it's just terrible. But I insisted that we do a Spinal Tap song just... so it's a little out of the theme that it was going to be, which is our sort of anniversary birthday show or whatever. So I wanted to do this. So we're going to be doing one of those songs. I'm also doing some Cheap Trick, some Journey, and some AC/DC. So it's a good time. Should come down if you're in the area. Of course, it's at the Whiskey at Go-Go tomorrow night. Shows at opening act is at 9 o'clock. We go on at 10 to midnight is the show. It's 2 hours. And it's a great time, and I host and do a couple of songs, and we love it. This is our special NAMM show for the National Association of Music Makers. If you're down there, by the way, I will also be in that neighborhood. I'm gonna be in LA at least till Thursday, so I'll do my shows on Wednesday from LA, and then I'm gonna go to NAMM that night and the next day. I might even go in the middle and do a special afternoon show on Wednesday from NAMM, like I did with CES. NAMM is the National Association of Music Makers. It's where all the guitar makers and gear people and all that kind of stuff show up. And who knows? I might even, I can bring my Zakk Wylde wah-wah pedal and have him sign it. Hi! Thank you very much. I'm like a big fan. Would you sign my pedal? I want to step on your name. So until then, we'll see you guys. And this song very much goes out to Tucker Carlson tonight. He's earned it. Jesus Christ. Lord help us. Hit that like. Leave a comment too. If you're not in the chat room, you're watching this later, throw an emoji in there. Facebook, throw in an emoji on your way out. Instagram, throw some sort of emoji thing in there. Substack, restack this for us, will you? Love you.
A handshake, a lie, a blank, cold stare. Puppets dance, the strings are tight. Shadows whisper in the dead of night. This is some bullshit. We see through it.
just bullshit, Joel.
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole, did you get out of your cell?
You think you know something about everything, don't you? Just follow the money. Oh, nice Mormon. Why are you dressed like that?
Bullshit!